In this world, there are monsters that are immune to conventional weapons and explosives. They brought chaos to the earth, and it seemed no one could stop them. But as always in the face of deadly threats, humanity had a chance. In different places began to appear magical doors of different colors depending on the rarity. By entering these doors, people could become players with superhuman powers capable of defeating monsters. At first, the players successfully defeated the monsters, but then a portal appeared with monsters so strong that even all the players together were powerless. It was at that moment that the MC of our story, Subaru, appeared on the stage. He defeated the boss of all monsters in one blow like a true Saitama, all thanks to the power obtained from the unique rainbow door. You might wonder how he became so strong. Let's find out more about his difficult path. The scene shifts back to when Subaru is 15 years old. He's sitting on the couch watching TV with 13-year-old Tiga. They're both watching an interview with the famous gold player, Hirosaka. Subaru is completely inspired, talking excitedly about Hirosaka's achievements, but Tiga finds him loud and annoying. Frustrated, he reminds the protagonist that they aren't related by blood, so they're not real brothers. This comment hits Subaru hard, leaving him silent and sad. On the screen, the interviewer asks Hirosaka about the mysterious gate that appeared in the mansion. The hero admits they discovered a gate inside a mansion too late, which caused deadly creatures to escape. He explains that these creatures caused 16 deaths because regular weapons couldn't harm them. Only chosen players, selected by the doors of the trial, could kill the monsters. Hirosaka also shares that the gate to another world has a timer. When the timer runs out, the creatures will emerge. He acknowledges a mistake from the other day when a creature escaped, but reassures the public that they are working to enter the gate and eliminate all the monsters before the timers expire. Despite his guilt over the casualties, the interviewer praises him for killing the escaped creature in a single blow, saving countless lives from further harm. Hirosaka, though visibly remorseful, humbly accepts the praise, knowing the cost of his mistake. The player urges civilians to report any sightings of mysterious doors immediately to prevent future tragedies. Speaking on behalf of his team, he explains that the players risk their lives daily to protect the public from these deadly monsters. Subaru gets deeply inspired by Hirosaka's dedication and the bravery of all the players. The gate to another world first appeared 5 years ago, creating a pathway for monsters immune to conventional weapons to enter. These creatures terrorize humanity, and only the players can stop them. These players are chosen ones who pass through the doors of trial, which appeared on the same day as the gate. The doors are ranked in gold, silver, and copper. Those who pass through gold doors are the most powerful and highly respected, though all players are admired by humanity for their courage. The interviewer questions Hirosaka about how someone becomes a chosen one. Hirosaka reveals that the doors of trial only accept those who prove themselves strong. Tiga, sitting beside Subaru, mocks him, claiming he'll never be strong enough to pass through any door. Suddenly, a radiant gold door appears before 15-year-old Subaru, leaving him stunned. Overwhelmed by the moment, the main character steps forward and grasps the door, determined to open it and change his destiny. Just as he is about to succeed, his stepbrother shoves him aside, seizing the opportunity for himself. In an instant, Tiga enters the door, robbing Subaru of his chance to transform his life. 3 years later, Tiga has already become the youngest gold-ranked player, earning widespread respect and admiration. Meanwhile, Subaru faces bullying from 3 copper-ranked players. They tie him up with a rope and mockingly use him as a target for fun. Tiga appears on the scene with a girl, watching Subaru's humiliation. Instead of intervening, he mocks Subaru, saying he feels ashamed to call him his brother. Tiga then attacks his stepbrother with his special move, a powerful strike comparable to Hirosaka's golden sword. The force of the attack leaves the poor guy unconscious. As Tiga leaves with the girl, he coldly states that he doesn't care if the copper players kill Subaru. Left completely vulnerable, the bullies strip the protagonist and abandon him. Onlookers stare at him with pity, questioning his miserable existence. The next day, news reports reveal that 4 gates to the other world have appeared, and Tiga has destroyed all. At dinner that evening, Tiga's parents celebrate his accomplishments, praising him for bringing honor to the family. His mother commends him for supporting them financially, despite still being a student. She proudly declares how fortunate she is to have given birth to such a brilliant son, unlike her stepson, Subaru. Their father also dismisses his son, labeling him a failure. During the meal, Tiga notices that his expensive branded water has run out. He heads to the cage-like room where Subaru lives and orders him to fetch the correct brand of water. The evil stepbrother cruelly threatens that Subaru will remain his pet forever, calling him worthless. Subaru leaves the house, reflecting bitterly on Tiga's words as he walks the streets. He remembers the harsh conditions he endures in his tiny room, a cage that offers no escape from the scorching summer heat or freezing winters. Subaru's parents treat him like a servant, while Tiga sees him as nothing more than an insignificant insect. Subaru begins to regret not seizing his chance with the golden door when he had it. In his despair, the main character considers ending his life as the only way to escape his suffering. Meanwhile, 3 copper-ranked players appear. They have just returned from destroying a gate, evident from the scars on their bodies. Spotting Subaru, they decide to vent their exhaustion and frustration by killing him for fun. Armed with their swords, they begin chasing him, striking him whenever they can, leaving Subaru battered and severely injured. As Subaru stumbles, he realizes that his life is about to end at the hands of these players. Despite his earlier thoughts of ending his own life, a sudden surge of willpower fills him. He no longer wants to die. The players corner Subaru at a dead end and mercilessly attack him as he pleads for his life. Just then, 4 doors of trial appear between Subaru and the players. 3 of the doors are gold, silver, and copper, but the 4th stands out. It's a rainbow door. The sudden appearance of the rainbow door kills one of the 3 copper players, cutting him in 2 halves. The players, baffled by the rainbow door, speculate that it might be even more powerful than the golden one. They eagerly try to reach it, but the doorknob is on Subaru's side. The main character, who had resigned himself to death moments ago, now sees the rainbow door as a symbol of his second chance. He realizes this is his opportunity to reclaim everything stolen from him: his honor, status, power, and dignity. Determined to seize his moment, Subaru passes through the rainbow door, leaving the stunned copper players helplessly watching as the insect they tormented steps into the unknown. On the other side of the door, Subaru discovers that the trial of the rainbow door has begun. Subaru steps through the rainbow door and finds himself in a strange place. A figure with human-like arms and legs but an eyeless face stands before him. The creature named Vanquish notices Subaru's battered body and, with a wave of its hand, restores his heart, lungs, and legs. The main character feels strength rushing back into his body and stands up, looking at the figure. But as soon as the boy locks eyes, or rather the lack of eyes, with the being, he recoils in fear. Subaru quickly recalls crossing the door, which has now brought him into this strange new realm. The realization settles in. This is the beginning of his trial. The story briefly shifts back to the interview with Hirasaka. The interviewer asks him about the inside of the trial door. The player explains that, in his case, the interior was a grand medieval castle made entirely of gold. He further reveals that each door has a ruler who governs it, and to pass the trial, the player must earn the ruler's approval. The scene returns to Subaru, still inside the rainbow door. He observes the creature before him and realizes it must be the ruler of this place. This being will oversee Subaru's trial, and his journey has now truly begun. Inside the rainbow door, Subaru recalls Hirasaka's words about the trial. He knows he must attack the ruler to prove himself, but the creature standing before him looks monstrous. Subaru hesitates, unsure how he could possibly land a hit. The door owner notices his silence and speaks, asking him why he isn't preparing to fight. Subaru nervously replies that he's fine, but the ruler challenges him to start the trial immediately. Subaru questions the nature of the rainbow door, as he's never heard of it before. Vanquish, unimpressed by his hesitation, demonstrates his immense power with a sudden move that terrifies Subaru. This makes the poor boy doubt his ability to even touch the ruler. When the ruler demands that Subaru attack again, his legs tremble, and the ruler begins to question how someone so unsure of himself could have been chosen for this door. To push Subaru further, Vanquish throws several swords near him and commands him to choose one and fight. He offers the boy a choice: fight and prove himself, or leave through the door behind him, returning to his old life. Shaken and overwhelmed, Subaru reaches for the doorknob to leave. But just as he begins to turn it, the ruler stops him. Vanquish seems puzzled that Subaru, who once craved power and change, is now willing to return to the very life he wanted to escape. The ruler's intervention forces the boy to confront his own fear and uncertainty. The protagonist's fear overtakes him, and he decides to leave the trial, turning the doorknob to escape. The ruler, disappointed by the boy's retreat, calls him an insect. This word strikes a nerve, as Subaru recalls all the times he was belittled and bullied with that term. His suppressed rage boils over, and he begins banging on the door furiously, shouting his frustrations. The main character confronts the ruler, Vanquish, accusing him of cruelty and arrogance for using his power to mock and belittle him. The owner of the door smirks, further provoking Subaru's anger. Fueled by hatred and defiance, Subaru strikes Vanquish's face with all his might. The impact carries an intense, raw energy. Vanquish observes the strike and confirms that Subaru has passed the trial, explaining that his anger has transformed into power. Vanquish approaches Subaru and suddenly bites his shoulder, transferring his own power to the boy. The bite causes Subaru immense pain, and in retaliation he bites Vanquish back, completing the transfer. Vanquish announces that Subaru has passed the trial and has officially become a player. Vanquish introduces himself and assures Subaru that they will meet again. Subaru receives a notification that he has been granted the level 1 blood mold skill and that the door will disappear in 30 seconds. The floor beneath him begins to collapse, and fear grips him as debris falls around him. Struggling to move, he realizes he must escape quickly. Outside the door, the copper-ranked players notice the rainbow door breaking apart. They assume Subaru has failed the trial and mock him, calling him a loser. Just as they're jeering, Subaru emerges from the collapsing door. The players are shocked to see him coming out of the door alive, and as a player, Subaru steps out of the rainbow door with his eyes glowing with vibrant rainbow colors that captivate the two copper-ranked players standing nearby. Their shock quickly turns to hostility as Sawatari, one of the players, accuses the main character of stealing the door's opportunity. Fueled by rage, Sawatari charges at him with his sword, aiming to strike. To everyone's surprise, Subaru effortlessly dodges the attack, moving with uncanny precision as though the world around him has slowed down. Sawatari swings again and again, but Subaru evades each strike with ease. The fight takes a sharp turn when the newly emerged player grabs Sawatari's hand mid-swing, stopping his momentum completely. Sawatari's frustration boils over, and he throws a punch directly at the main character's face. Subaru braces for the impact but feels only a faint sting. A glowing screen suddenly appears in front of the boy, startling him. It displays an HP gauge, revealing his vitality at 155-173 after the punch. The screen explains that if his HP drops to 0, he will become incapacitated. Realizing this, Subaru understands that he needs to protect himself and fight strategically to avoid losing HP. For the first time, Subaru sees the world as if it were a game. Everything, from the glowing HP bar to the detailed menu, feels surreal yet empowering. He begins to comprehend that this is how players experience their world, and he now fully belongs to this realm. Sawatari and his companion also notice Subaru's transformation. The realization that Subaru has become a full-fledged player frustrates Sawatari. Furious at his failure to harm someone he deemed inferior, he summons his most powerful skill, Red Rose. Subaru braces himself as Sawatari unleashes another attack, this time with even more power. The force is overwhelming, and though Subaru manages to block it with his arms, the impact leaves him shaken. He fears the worst, expecting to die, but instead, he loses only a portion of his HP. Checking the glowing screen in front of him, he sees his vitality has dropped to 121-173, and panic starts to creep in. If he keeps taking hits like this, his HP will soon reach 0, spelling his defeat. On the other hand, Sawatari is stunned. His powerful Red Rose attack, strong enough to destroy a car, barely dented Subaru's vitality. This revelation unsettles him, and his companion, realizing the gravity of the situation, urges Sawatari to retreat. He tells him that the power of the rainbow door may even be greater than a gold door. But Sawatari, consumed by pride and fear of Subaru's potential, refuses to back down. He tells him that they need to kill him while he is still at level 1 since he fears that he may get stronger later on. While they argue, Subaru senses their murderous intent and decides to flee. But before he can escape, Sawatari's friend uses an ash-wired skill, ensnaring Subaru in unbreakable metallic-like wires. Trapped and immobilized, Subaru watches in horror as Sawatari closes in, sword drawn, ready to deliver the final blow. Desperation fuels Subaru's thoughts. He knows he needs to use a skill to save himself, but he has no idea how. As Sawatari lunges at him, something instinctive within Subaru activates. Suddenly, 4 swords emerge from his body, forming a protective shield. The swords block Sawatari's attack, surprising everyone, including Subaru himself. This unintentional skill saves him, proving that the power granted by the rainbow door might be more formidable than even he imagined. Subaru considers using blood mold on Sawatari but hesitates. Frustrated, he calls out to Vanquish for help. Moments later, Vanquish appears, warning him that this will be the last time he assists him. He explains that blood mold allows Subaru to manipulate the state of blood for 10 seconds. He also reveals that the swords Subaru wields are formed from his own blood. Vanquish urges Subaru to figure the rest out on his own and tells him to channel his hatred, using it as a weapon against his opponent. With that, Vanquish vanishes, and Subaru's swords disappear. Sawatari takes the chance to attack again with his blade. The main character narrowly dodges, but his opponent is relentless, accusing him of stealing their door and killing their friend. Subaru defends himself, arguing it all happened because they tried to kill him first. Sawatari spits back bitterly, claiming that if Subaru had just died, none of this would have happened, and their friend would still be alive. These words ignite a deep hatred within him, fueling his resolve to fight. Both fighters charge at each other. Sawatari strikes first, but Subaru counters with a powerful blow, shattering his opponent's sword. After breaking Sawatari's sword, Subaru unleashes a powerful blow, hitting him with all his strength. The force of the attack sends the opponent soaring into the sky before slamming him back down to the ground with a loud crash. Before Subaru can follow up, one of Sawatari's friends uses a wire to lift him up and carry him away. As they flee, the friend reflects in shock. Subaru has drained all of Sawatari's HP with a single strike. This realization confirms that the power of the Rainbow Door far surpasses that of the Golden Door. What's even more astonishing is that Subaru is still just a level 1 player. Meanwhile, Subaru stands in the aftermath, the adrenaline still surging through him. For the first time, he fully grasps the extent of his newfound power. He's defeated a strong opponent, and the victory fills him with a mix of relief and determination. The next morning, the police arrive at a grim scene. A copper player has been found sliced cleanly in half, lying in the middle of the street. The brutal precision of the act leaves them baffled, as it doesn't seem like something a human could have done. Some speculate that it might be the work of a monster. Amidst their confusion, Hirosaka arrives at the scene. Calm but observant, he assures the officers that he has thoroughly searched the area and found no evidence suggesting an underworld creature's involvement. The police thank him for his assistance, relieved to have his expertise. As they examine the body further, they discover the player's registration card, identifying him as Kunisaki Shootaru, a copper player. Hirosaka's expression darkens. Slicing a copper player in two with such precision could only be done by someone possessing the strength of at least a silver player. The realization disturbs him deeply. A single name lingers in his mind, and he wonders if he could really be behind it. But Hirosaka quickly dismisses the thought. Now is not the time for suspicion or inner conflict. The priority is clear. Find the culprit and destroy as many doors as possible before the sky clock strikes 0. Tiga heads to Subaru's cage-like room, but to his surprise, Subaru isn't there. It's almost morning, and the absence feels strange. A flicker of unease settles in as he takes out his phone to check if Subaru has seen his last message. As he unlocks his phone, a shocking news alert flashes on the screen. A copper player has been killed by another player just 2 hours ago. Tiga freezes, staring at the notification in disbelief. He wonders who could have done something so brutal. Then, as he reads further, the pieces begin to fall into place. The dead player is one of the 3 who had bullied Subaru. The realization hits Tiga like a punch to the gut. Subaru was behind this. Anger flares within him, hot and sharp. If Subaru has already become a player, it means he's entered a world Tiga wanted to shield him from. The thought of Subaru crossing that line fills him with frustration. Meanwhile, Subaru finds himself in Shinagawa City, standing before the grand headquarters of the Japan Players Federation. This prestigious organization oversees all gates that appear in Japan and manages the registration of new players. For Subaru, being here feels surreal. The sight of experienced players walking confidently through the bustling halls fills him with a mix of awe and excitement. At the new member registration counter, a cheerful girl greets the group of emerging players and encourages them to register. She explains the rules. In Japan, it's illegal to invade gates without being a registered member of the Federation. Players can only level up by entering the gates and defeating their challenges. For anyone aspiring to grow stronger, registering is not just a requirement. It's the first step toward unlocking their potential. Amid this buzzing environment, Subaru's thoughts wander to the recent murder of the copper player. The incident has become a high-profile case, and according to the rules, only another player has the authority to investigate such crimes. Given its seriousness, it's almost certain that a gold player will be assigned to solve it. The possibility unnerves Subaru. If Tiga is the one to uncover the truth, Subaru knows he'll be in deep trouble. The only way out, he realizes, is to grow stronger, fast. Clearing as many doors as possible will allow him to level up. If Tiga does find out the truth, Subaru vows to be ready. He'll need the strength not just to survive but to face Tiga head-on. At the registration counter, the receptionist greets Subaru with a smile and begins explaining the basics. Rules he's already familiar with from his late-night research at an internet cafe. She patiently outlines that players can level up by clearing gates. The number of stars on a gate indicates its difficulty, and clearing a gate rewards players with stars that can be exchanged for money. He remembers the star he picked up yesterday, the one Sawatari dropped as his friend carried him away. With no money to his name, he decides to take a chance. Hesitant but desperate, Subaru hands the star to the receptionist and asks if he can exchange it for cash. His cheeks flush with embarrassment. Selling a star feels like admitting how broke he is. The receptionist's reaction, however, is not what he expects. Her eyes widen in shock as she examines the star. She asks him where he got the star. Caught off guard, Subaru fumbles for an answer and tells her that he just became a player and cleared a gate. The receptionist tells him that he has made a big mistake since clearing a gate before becoming a player is illegal. It can result in a fine of 1 million yen, or even 5 years in prison. Panic sets in as Subaru realizes the gravity of his error. The scene shifts to a bustling police station where Tiga, one of Japan's 7 gold-ranked players, makes his entrance. His imposing presence immediately turns heads, and the officer at the reception desk can't hide his surprise. The officer asks him why he is here. Tiga wastes no time with pleasantries. He's here to investigate yesterday's high-profile murder. With a serious expression, he requests access to the evidence, explaining that there's something important he needs to verify. Meanwhile, Subaru manages to exchange his star for money, thanks to the receptionist's kindness. She bends the rules just this once and sends him 1 million yen. Subaru learns that 1 star is worth 100,000 yen, and 5 stars could fetch a staggering 10 million yen. Motivated by this realization, he resolves to chase his dreams and work hard to level up. With his newfound wealth, Subaru treats himself to a much-needed transformation. He visits a barber's shop, shedding his shaggy, unkempt appearance for a sharp new look. Next, he splurges on branded clothes and steps into a cozy cafe, indulging in an expensive caramel macchiato. For the first time in his life, Subaru sits back and enjoys the simple pleasure of sipping coffee in stylish clothes. The warm, sweet drink brings tears to his eyes. It's been so long since he's had anything this comforting. As he savors the moment, memories of his past flood back. He recalls the relentless years of working like a slave for his brother and parents, his dreams buried under their expectations. But today, for the first time, he feels the weight of freedom lifting. The feeling is intoxicating, but Subaru quickly regains his focus. This is just the beginning. He plans to return for another cup of coffee, but only after clearing a gate and leveling up. His mission awaits, and he's determined to rise. As Subaru dreams about his future, he suddenly notices Tiga towering over him, his face ablaze with anger. Before Subaru can react, Tiga grabs him by the collar and drags him out onto the street. The tension is suffocating, but Subaru refuses to cower. Summoning his blood mold ability, he channels his blood to form a thick rope. With a swift motion, he uses the blood rope to tie 3 nearby vehicles together, planning to hurl them at Tiga in a desperate counterattack. Just as he prepares to strike, Subaru's eyes catch sight of a frightened mother clutching her child close by. They stand frozen, terrified by the chaos unfolding before them. Subaru hesitates, waiting for them to move to safety. But the precious seconds tick by, and before he knows it, the 10-second limit of his blood mold skill expires. The rope dissolves into nothingness, leaving Subaru vulnerable and unarmed against Tiga's wrath. Subaru's secret is out. Tiga now knows he's a player. Fury burns in Tiga's eyes as he storms toward Subaru. As a level 1 player, Subaru is aware of the impossible odds he faces against one of the top gold-ranked players in the country. Yet, something ignites within him, and he gets ready to fight his biggest fear. The fight between the brothers causes a traffic jam. A woman sitting in her car asks a passerby about what is going on. He tells her that the gold-ranked player is on a rampage and warns her to abandon her car and run away. Both the brothers are now face to face. Subaru asks Tiga how he knew his location. Instead of answering him, the man goes for a punch. The MC realizes that he must have figured it out through the GPS on his phone. However, it doesn't really matter now. Tiga uses his golden arm skill and tells him that he is going to die. Subaru suddenly closes his eyes and tries to contact Vanquish. His skill blood mold uses mana to manipulate blood, so if he gets carried away, he will dry all of his mania in no time. Subaru doesn't care about any of that for the moment. He only needs to think about surviving. With no warning, Tiga launches his golden arm straight towards our boy, but he manages to dodge it. He knows that he has to find out a way to use his blood mold ability. Before he can even land, Tiga appears behind him and goes for another attack. Subaru barely manages to get out of the way. He knows that if he gets once, he will die. Tiga gets a bit annoyed and calls him pathetic for using such a skill. He thinks to himself that he only needs to catch him down. However, Subaru suddenly covers himself in a red smoke. He appears behind his brother and uses his hatred to fuel himself. His punch is still not powerful enough, and he ends up hurting his own wrist. This was the same attack which defeated Sawatari in a single blow, and it had no effect on his brother. While he is still in pain, Tiga lands a hit on him which drains almost all of his health. Subaru still isn't ready to give up. He uses his smoke to blind Tiaga and hits him with the toughest blood he can make. To his shock, it does nothing to the gold rank. He seems to be in a completely different level than him. Subaru realizes that he can't beat his brother no matter what he tries. Tiga knows that he has to kill him right now because if he allows him to level up, he may cause problems later on. He hits him as hard as he can, but surprisingly, it does no damage to Subaru. As he looks down, he notices an airbag made out of blood. At least this is what he thinks it is. In reality, Subaru has made a sticky substance out of blood. Tiga tries his best to get it off his hands, but it doesn't work. The effect of blood mold lasts for 10 seconds, so Subaru knows that he has to give it his all and not think about his mana. He creates several other bubbles and launches them all at his brother. Tiga furiously asks him if he really thinks he has won. Our boy tells him that he isn't even thinking about whining. He is simply trying to survive, and he will succeed in that. Using whatever mana he has left, he covers his entire body in the sticky blood and uses a rope to get out. After the duration of the skill ends, he creates a smokescreen so Tiga can't chase after him. Tiga is almost fuming that he let him escape and promises to hunt down and end his life. Suddenly, he feels an overwhelming presence around him. He then notices the top 3 gold rank players walking towards him. He tells them that he doesn't have any time to explain what he is doing, but before he can go anywhere, he gets shackled by some golden chains. Tiga can't believe that the top gold rank players are after him. Hirasaka points his sword towards him and says that they are restraining him. Meanwhile, our boy is almost on the verge of death. He has 5 health and 2 mana left. He couldn't land a single hit on his brother, and he knows that if he finds him again, he is dead. His clothes are also torn apart, and the rest of his clothes are at the cafe. He knows that in order for him to obtain freedom, he has to fight and get stronger. Somewhere else, groups of players argue with a girl about the reservation of a gate. She tries to tell them that she has already reserved the gate, but they won't listen. When it starts getting a bit heated, she smiles and prepares to remind them who she really is. She is a copper rank player named Sayaka. We then see the guys mocking her as she gets beaten by the group. They ask her for her level, and she tells them that she is at level 8. The guy who destroyed her is at level 13, and she couldn't even beat him alone. Another asks her to just give them the gate since it is about the survival of the fittest. She stands her ground and tells them that she already knows it, and this is exactly why she can't afford to lose to them. As one of them prepares to attack her, he gets interrupted by a voice. Subaru enters the scene and asks them if they are deciding who gets to go inside the door based on survival of the fittest. He calmly asks them if he can also join them. The guy gets mad and tries to push him away. Subaru immediately uses his skill and the man falls down to the ground. With a serious expression, he tells them that he has to get stronger as soon as possible. He also tells them that he is at level 1. Hearing this, the men think that they can take him on just using their stats difference. Subaru has been fighting strong players all this time, so these guys appear too slow to him. He continues beating them down using his fists. The last guy uses one of his skills and takes out a gun. He tries shooting him, but Subaru simply blocks the bullets using his blood mold skill. He then proceeds to destroy this guy too. Meanwhile, Sayaka stands there in shock, wondering who he is. Because of his skills, she thinks to herself that he must be at the gold rank. Subaru undresses one of the men and walks inside the door wearing his hoodie. Before she can figure out what is happening, he has already stolen her door. This is his first time inside a door and he thinks it looks great. Suddenly, Sayaka opens the gate and enters from behind. Immediately after entering, she locks the door, making it impossible for them to escape without defeating the boss. She lets out an evil laugh and says that the guys outside won't be able to enter even after waking up. Meanwhile, Subaru stands there awkwardly. He tells her that he won the door fair and square, but she argues that she originally reserved it for herself. All the doors are listed on the website and players can reserve them. He apologizes to her and tells her that it's his first time inside the gate. He needs to level up and leave immediately, so he asks if she will allow him to clear it with her. She allows him since he helped her, but more importantly because she knows what it feels like to try to get stronger. The two of them make a deal to split the reward 70-30. He doesn't want to get her his real name since he is accused of murdering a player, so he tells her that he is Vanquish. As she excitedly prepares to clear the gate, a stone comes flying at her. Subaru tries to warn her, but she is quick to block the attack. The enemies inside the gate have arrived. Sayaka smiles and asks him to let her handle it. The players are able to fight the underworld creatures thanks to their increased physical powers and skills granted to them by the doors. As the girl continues taking down the monsters, Subaru watches in awe. After putting all the creatures to sleep, she turns around and asks him what he thinks. She proudly explains that her skill is called Instant Void, and it allows her to stun any enemy for 3 seconds by hitting them. She can't use it in long-range fights, but it's great in close combat. Suddenly, all the creatures get up again. Her ability only stuns them for 3 seconds, and she forgot to finish them off during that time. She starts screaming for help, but our boy is still obeying her orders. He realizes that her ability also has a time duration like blood mold. He can't use his blades because she is in the way, so he decides to use something else. Subaru uses his blood mold skill to create long, strong ropes. The ropes wrap around the monsters' necks, tightening until they suffocate and collapse. With every enemy defeated, Subaru levels up, becoming a level 4 player. His blood mold skill also improves, extending its duration to 15 seconds. His wounds from Tiga heal completely, and his HP and MP are fully restored. Sayaka, who only knows Subaru by the name Vanquish, is amazed by his power. Subaru praises her skill in return, but she downplays her abilities. He gives her advice. Use her Instant Void skill every 3 seconds in one-on-one battles to maintain an advantage. Sayaka realizes this strategy could make her nearly unbeatable. They soon spot more creatures hiding in a nearby creek. Sayaka steps forward, targeting one monster and applying Subaru's advice. With precise timing, she defeats it easily. Encouraged, she calls out the rest of the hidden creatures and starts taking them down one by one. As Sayaka handles the smaller enemies, a massive figure approaches. The boss. It's a level 17 goblin chief, accompanied by a level 12 large kobold. Subaru tells Sayaka to continue fighting the others while he faces the boss alone. The two enemies charge at Subaru, using a level 2 skill called Forage. The powerful attack could have been deadly, but Subaru defended himself by forming a blood shield. His improved skill holds strong, allowing him to survive the hit. Meanwhile, Sayaka keeps eliminating the smaller monsters. She doesn't even consider joining Subaru in the fight against the boss. To her, her level 8 skills seem insignificant against such a strong silver-class archer enemy. Subaru struggles against the boss as the goblin chief uses long-range archer skills, while the kobold relies on swift invade and hit attacks. The relentless combination leaves Subaru unable to land a strong counterattack. The boss then unleashes a skill called Perforation, a powerful move capable of piercing even Subaru's blood shield. Trapped in the attack, Subaru braces for the worst. Suddenly, Sayaka appears and strikes the kobold directly in the face. She uses her instant void skill, shocking Subaru. As it should only work with a level difference of 3, it quickly becomes clear. Sayaka has defeated all the other monsters and leveled up. Subaru seizes the moment, forming a blood rope to tie up the kobold and kill it instantly. The victory levels him up to a level 6 player, fully restoring his HP and MP. With the kobold gone, Subaru focuses on the goblin chief. He forms a blood hand and lands a direct blow to the archer's face, killing the boss in one strike. As the boss falls, Subaru levels up once again, extending his blood mold skill duration to 20 seconds with improved efficiency. Together with Sayaka, Subaru successfully clears his first gate. Subaru and Sayaka clear the gate, leaving them only 30 seconds to exit before it collapses. Outside, the bully players wait, surprised to see the duo emerge so quickly. Clearing a 2-star gate normally takes at least 2 hours, but Subaru and his partner finish it in just 15 minutes. The remaining time from the gate is used to rewind the sky clock, a critical mechanism preventing the world from ending. Everyone knows the world will collapse if the clock reaches 0, and only players can extend time by clearing gates. The bullies, initially hostile, are now impressed. They recognize that the gate could only be cleared by someone of level 9 or higher, and are awestruck by the achievement. They hail Subaru for his strength and leave without conflict. Their sudden change in behavior takes aback Subaru, but his partner explains they are likely afraid of his power now. The duo earns 2 stars as a reward. Subaru suggests that Sayaka redeem them in her name, raising her suspicions about his identity. Later, while celebrating their success at a cafe, she asks if Vanquish is his real name. She also questions how he has such incredible power as a level 1 player, but she clarifies that she isn't judging. She is only curious. Sayaka confesses she is grateful to Subaru for saving her and expresses her desire to clear future gates together as teammates. Subaru reveals his true name and agrees to partner with her in upcoming quests. He shares the events of the past 2 days, and Sayaka realizes his situation is worse than she imagined. She acknowledges Subaru must grow stronger to face his stepbrother Tiga. In turn, she shares her own story. She has 2 sisters who are silver-ranked players. Once part of the same team, they excluded her because she was weaker. Now she is determined to prove them wrong by becoming stronger. With shared struggles and ambitions, the two form a pact to help each other grow and achieve their goals. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Hirasaka and the other gold-ranked players at the headquarters. They have restrained Tiga, a move that creates a shortage of gold players needed to clear 5-star gates. Hirasaka suggests including copper-ranked players to help with these high-level challenges. He informs the group that there are currently 7 5-star gates in Tokyo, all of which need immediate attention. A top-ranked player announces that Team Julieta, led by level 38 player Hizaki Julieta, will handle the gates in Meguro City. Subaru and Sayaka cross paths with the silver-ranked team at the headquarters, curious about their destination. Sayaka advises Subaru to stay focused on redeeming their stars and booking their next gate. Coincidentally, they choose a gate located in Meguro City, the same place where Team Julieta is headed. The gate they are headed to is a 2-star gate located at the top of a staircase. Sayaka lies in Subaru's lap covered in blood, her injuries severe. Subaru's fury is palpable as he silently vows to destroy whoever hurt her. The scene shifts to the duo, heading toward their newly booked gate. Subaru asks about its nature, and Sayaka explains that they can enter and exit freely as long as the gate remains unlocked from the inside. They reach the entrance, marked by a massive spiral staircase that seems perfect for Sayaka's abilities. Taking the lead, she begins the ascent while Subaru locks the gate behind them to initiate the quest. As soon as the quest begins, skeletal enemies emerge from below the staircase. Subaru notices an ominous light at the bottom, which he suspects belongs to the boss. Thousands of skeletons begin swarming upward. The first one lunges at Sayaka, but Subaru shields her with his blood. She counters, destroying the skeleton with a quick strike. Both realize the enemies are all above level 10, and the locked gate means they must eliminate every single one before they can leave. Subaru takes charge of defense, advising Sayaka to focus on striking the enemies one by one. Subaru gets a feeling that the boss is far more powerful than their previous opponent. Subaru suggests alternating their efforts for rest, but she insists that leveling up rejuvenates her, negating the need for breaks. She encourages Subaru to fight with full force until he, too, levels up. Inspired, the main character uses his MP to unleash a blood tide, sweeping across the staircase and trapping thousands of skeletons in a single attack. Sayaka seizes the opportunity, eliminating numerous foes within the tide and leveling up to 14. With the numbers dwindling, Subaru steps forward to finish off the remaining skeletons. His relentless efforts bring him to level 16. Sayaka praises his skills, but as she speaks, a skeleton sneaks up behind her. Subaru swiftly takes it down. Both agree that at their current pace, they can reach the lowest floor while steadily increasing their levels. As they descend, Subaru's unease about the boss intensifies. By the time they reach the ground floor, the main character has reached level 19, and Sayaka has leveled up to 20. They finally face the boss, a towering level 29 skeleton known as the late Empress Judith. Her long-range attacks and erratic movements make her an intimidating foe. Subaru realizes he must take the lead in this fight. Judith keeps attacking relentlessly, but Subaru uses his blood as a shield, deflecting her strikes. The two soon realize they can't get close to her as long as the attacks continue. The main character notices Judith is relying on her MP to power these moves, and starts wondering if his blood mold skill could be effective against her. He rules out Sayaka's instant void due to the vast level gap, deciding instead to try blood mold. Before acting, Subaru looks at his partner and thinks about their promise to grow stronger together. If he defeats Judith alone, Sayaka won't get the experience points they need to stay evenly matched. With this in mind, he tells her he'll focus on blocking the boss's attacks, giving her the chance to strike. Using blood mold, Subaru restrains Judith, trapping her in place. This creates an opening, and Sayaka moves quickly, striking Judith in the face with precision and speed. While she attacks repeatedly, Subaru warns her that the blood mold will expire in 5 seconds. She retreats just as the skill ends, but Judith counters, launching an attack at her. Subaru blocks it with his blood shield, saving Sayaka in the nick of time. The pair repeat this strategy, but as they press on, Judith speaks, shocking them both. The boss questions aloud where Subaru learned such a skill. Her voice is deep, unnerving, and full of disbelief. She accuses him of possessing power from someone named Vanquish, becoming enraged at the thought. Using all her MP, Judith transforms into an even more terrifying creature. Judith unleashes a powerful wave of energy that Subaru blocks with his MP, but the strain is immense. The main character's MP drains rapidly, leaving him with no choice but to end the fight immediately. Determined, Subaru transforms his blood into a spear and charges head-on. The spear pierces Judith clean through, and she collapses, defeated. He levels up to 21, while his partner gains valuable experience points as well. However, Subaru can't shake the implications of Judith's words. If she knew Vanquish, it could mean these underworld bosses are tied to the gate owners. Subaru vows to find out more next time. Just as they begin to relax, they realize something is wrong. They haven't received the notification for the gate's unlock. Anxiety builds as they wonder if they've been trapped. Suddenly, a shimmering rainbow door materializes in front of them. Subaru is startled, but Sayaka explains, this is a trial door, a rare occurrence where players gain new skills after completing it. She mentions that the top-ranked gold player has cleared 7 doors and become nearly invincible. Driven by curiosity and ambition, Subaru unlocks the door. The moment it opens, an attack comes out of nowhere. Subaru's arm is slashed, and his partner is struck, falling hard to the ground. Shocked and furious, he looks toward the door to find someone standing there. It's not Vanquish this time. He rushes to Sayaka's side and sees her bleeding heavily. The figure at the door smirks, mocking him and calling him an insect. Fueled by anger, Subaru swears to destroy this new foe. The attacker steps forward, introducing himself as the Ghoul King Carrion, one of Vanquish's subordinates. The battle is far from over. As Subaru faces off against the subordinate of Lord Vanquish, he is shocked to see such an opponent standing before him. Acting quickly, he attempts to contact Vanquish and inform him that his subordinate is attacking them. However, to his astonishment, Vanquish vanishes without responding. This confuses him even more, and the subordinate explains that the Lord Vanquish within him isn't real. It's merely a mechanism of the blood mold technique. He further reveals that for him to complete the trial, he must inflict a wound on his body. Before the subordinate can even finish speaking, Subaru charges at him without hesitation. Carrion, however, is far too fast and effortlessly dodges his attack. He tells him that if he succeeds in overcoming the trial, he will earn one of Lord Vanquish's greatest treasures, the Divine Chisel. Ignoring the subordinate's words, he furiously attacks with his blood whip. The subordinate is impressed by the strength of his attack. However, he is confident that the protagonist will never catch him. He reveals that he has been observing him all along with Lord Vanquish and is well aware of his unique ability to adapt and replicate the fighting styles of his enemies. Driven by the urgency to save his injured friend, Subaru presses on and challenges the subordinate to face him head-on instead of dodging. Accepting the challenge, the subordinate engages him in direct combat. He cuts through Subaru's blood armor as though it were paper and slashes him in the face. He falls to his knees with blood dripping from his face. Carrion taunts him, claiming that his sword contains Lord Vanquish's own essence, making it unstoppable. While the subordinate mocks him, he suddenly feels a surge of blood strikes him from below. Laughing, he realizes that Subaru extended his blood whip beneath his feet. This impresses him even further. He acknowledges his potential as a warrior, but swiftly counters, appearing in front of Subaru and delivering a powerful punch to his stomach. Following up, the subordinate uses his blood technique to hurl him several meters away. As the MC lies on the ground, Carrion scolds him, asking if he truly thought the trial was a joke. However, our boy rises once again with blood dripping from his battered face. Consumed by his determination to save his friend, he forms a new blood armor using his blood mold technique. Channeling his hatred into raw power, he launches another attack. Despite his determination to win, the subordinate's speed remains unmatched, and he struggles to land a decisive blow. As they continue fighting, Carrion slices off one of his arms with ease, cutting through his armor as if it were nothing. Yet our boy astonishes him by reattaching his severed arm with the blood technique. The subordinate is momentarily surprised, but he resumes his relentless assault, dismembering him repeatedly. Each time, Subaru reattaches his limbs using his blood mold technique, despite the immense strain on his body. The subordinate realizes that his relentless efforts are pushing him to the brink of collapse, as his mana dwindles with each reattachment. He begins to laugh, impressed at the MC's willingness to sacrifice himself to win the fight. Carrion recalls a conversation with Lord Vanquish, who spoke of Subaru's tenacity. Even when faced with overwhelming pain and odds, he had the audacity to bite him back. This memory makes him laugh, and he begins to admire his ferocity. Back in the present, Carrion laughs and tells him that he has started to like him. However, as he looks at his face, he is terrified. Subaru, now almost out of control, channels his remaining strength to create a blood lance with his blood mold skill. Without hesitation, he charges forward, aiming to pierce the subordinate directly. At this point, he is not even trying to inflict a wound, but to finish him off at once. Subaru slashes Carrion in half, but to his surprise, Carrion doesn't die. Instead, he laughs and asks if Subaru really thinks he can skip grades by killing him. Subaru glares at him and snaps, telling him to just hurry up and die. He's desperate to take his friend, Sayaka, to the hospital, but he can't do that until he gets out of the gate. Carrion sighs and tells Subaru not to panic, explaining that time flows differently inside and outside the gate. He then asks Subaru how he plans to survive since his mana pool is about to run out. Subaru replies that he doesn't have another way to beat him. This was his only choice. He just wants to save Sayaka before he dies. Hearing this, Carrion looks annoyed and asks if Subaru is in love with the girl. Subaru starts crying and denies it, saying that it's not about love. He made a promise with Sayaka to never abandon each other, and she's the first friend he ever made in his entire life. Carrion falls silent, the words hitting him hard. He remembers how Vanquish saved him when he was younger, and the promise he made to never abandon or betray him. Realizing his mistake, Carrion apologizes to Subaru. He then hands Subaru the Divine Chisel and grants him a special skill for skipping grades. Subaru, confused, asks why Carrion is giving him all this if he's going to die anyway. Carrion reminds him that since Subaru defeated him, he has successfully cleared the gate. Subaru levels up, recovering all of his health and mana. Carrion reveals that he is an underworld creature, part of the same kind as Lord Vanquish. He says he doesn't have much time left to explain, but tells Subaru something important. If one of his friends ever dies, he can use a skill called Blood Usurper on them. Subaru stands there confused, unsure what Blood Usurper even means. Before disappearing, Carrion tells Subaru to remember his words. The gate's quest ends and Subaru evacuates with Sayaka. He realizes he just cleared a 2-star quest. Meanwhile, the sky clock begins counting down the remaining time, but Subaru doesn't care. He immediately takes out his phone and calls an ambulance to get help for Sayaka. Elsewhere, in a 5-star gate, a group of heroes struggles to fight off creatures. The gate is led by Mr. Julieta, who watches in horror as his crew members die one by one. They are up against a level 59 sky whale that attacks them with powerful water balls. Julieta starts to panic. This isn't even the main boss yet. One of the remaining heroes asks him what their next move is, pointing out that they can't escape unless most of the players in their group die. Julieta glares at him and, without hesitation, stabs him in the head, thinking his own life is far more important. Suddenly, a notification appears. The majority of players in the group have died. Julieta starts laughing, realizing he can now leave the gate. The remaining players shout at him, begging him not to abandon them, saying the whale will escape into the real world. Ignoring them, Julieta orders them to keep the creature at bay while he runs for the exit. As Julieta escapes the gate, he gets a notification that all of his group members have died. Before he can react, a powerful attack from the whale strikes him. He begins crying, realizing the players weren't able to stop the whale. The massive creature has escaped the gate and is now heading toward the city. Back in the real world, doctors tend to Sayaka as Subaru watches over her. Suddenly he gets a notification. The 5-star quest has failed. The quest still had 5,837 hours remaining, but as a penalty, all of this time was deducted from the sky clock. The timer now shows only 49 days left. Subaru tries to make sense of it all when he hears Julieta screaming in the distance. Julieta bursts into the hospital yelling for help. He frantically demands a car and tries to force a doctor to drive him away. He shouts at them to abandon Sayaka, claiming his life is more important because he's a silver rank. Subaru steps forward and places a hand on Julieta's shoulder, trying to stop him. Julieta turns back, furious, and demands to know what Subaru is trying to do. Meanwhile, the massive whale looms closer, its shadow darkening the skies. The Player Federation warns the citizens of Meguro City about the underworld creature that has just escaped the gate. The threat level is classified as 5 stars, and the Federation frantically tries to evacuate all the residents. Subaru hands his friend Sayaka over to the doctors as they escape in an ambulance. This enrages Julieta, who threatens to kill Subaru. Without hesitation, Subaru uses his blood armor technique to create a suit of armor and begins beating Julieta relentlessly. After restraining him, Subaru demands to know if the whale is only targeting him. Julieta, shocked at Subaru's overwhelming strength, explains that underworld creatures only target the place inside the gate. Subaru processes this information, realizing that as long as Julieta is alive, the whale won't stop attacking this area. Determined to end the threat here and now, Subaru questions Julieta about the whale's abilities. Julieta reveals that the creature can summon water and shoot laser beams. As the whale charges its next attack, Subaru quickly raises his blood shield, deflecting the powerful laser. Even Julieta is stunned, knowing the whale's attacks can penetrate even silver-class shields. With the whale hovering in the air, Subaru sees an opportunity to fight without holding back. He leaps into the sky and strikes the whale with his blood fist attack, but the hit does little damage. The whale lets out a deafening roar, shattering the windows of nearby buildings. Subaru lands back on the ground, realizing this underworld creature is far stronger than he expected. Determined, he draws his divine sword and channels 1/3 of his mana into a single, powerful strike. As the whale fires a barrage of water missiles, Subaru intercepts and destroys them with his attack. However, the creature is still alive. The whale begins charging another laser, and Subaru knows he must stop it. If the whale fires, the entire city could be destroyed. Without hesitation, he uses another 1/3 of his mana and launches another devastating blow. This time, he manages to finish off the whale. The creature collapses, and the water it summoned falls to the ground in the form of rain. The citizens look back, stunned, realizing that someone has defeated the underworld creature. Julieta watches in disbelief, wondering if Subaru is the new gold rank player. Subaru, however, doesn't gain any levels for defeating the whale since it was killed outside the gate. Despite this, he feels relieved that the city and its people are safe. Thinking of Sayaka, he immediately leaves to check on her. Meanwhile, an old man records a video of his heroic actions. At the hospital, the doctors are busy operating on Sayaka. Her condition appears critical, and the protagonist tries to reach her anxiously. A single tear rolls down from her eye. The scene shifts to the mortuary, where Subaru takes one final look at his friend, Sayaka. Overwhelmed by grief, he drops to his knees, blaming himself for her death. It was his decision to involve her in the dangerous quest, and now he feels the weight of that mistake. Anger bubbles within him, but amid the sorrow he remembers when Carrion told him to use the Blood Usurper skill if one of his friends ever died. Desperation kicks in, and Subaru frantically opens the system menu, searching for the skill. Since he is at level 26, he unlocks Parivara, a skill that allows the user to resurrect someone as their kindred within 1 hour of their death. The description is vague, but it's his only hope. Without hesitation, he activates the skill. Sayaka's body begins to change as a countdown appears, ticking down relentlessly. If it reaches 0, the chance to save her will be gone forever. Subaru watches in horror as the numbers drop. When the timer hits 0, nothing happens. Panic overtakes him and he wonders if the skill has failed. At that moment, 2 girls enter the room. They rush to Sayaka's body, crying and calling her their sister. Subaru watches in stunned silence, realizing they must be her older and younger sisters. One of the girls notices him and storms over, demanding to know who he is. Still in tears, Subaru explains that he was a friend of Sayaka. Fury flashes in her eyes as she pins him against the wall. Accusing him of dragging Sayaka into this mess, she blames him for her sister's death. Her anger erupts, and she raises her hand to strike him, but before she can, Sayaka suddenly sits up. An ominous aura radiates from her as she rises. Her appearance has completely transformed. Even her clothes seem different, and her eyes carry an unnatural intensity. Sayaka calls out to her sister and orders her to let go of Subaru. Then, without warning, she moves to attack. Subaru reacts quickly, grabbing her arm. He's stunned by her strength. This isn't the Sayaka he knew. Dropping to her knees, Sayaka apologizes, confusing her sisters even further. She explains that Subaru revived her as a kindred using the Paravara skill. She has no memory of her past life, and now exists only to obey his commands. The two sisters recoil in horror and anger. They lunge at him again, but Sayaka steps forward, vowing to eliminate them in 10 seconds if necessary. Subaru, panicking, stops her before she can attack. Using his blood mold technique, he restrains the sisters and runs away while grabbing Sayaka. As Subaru runs, confusion swirls in his mind. Sayaka's actions are nothing like her former self. Her memories are gone, and her personality is unrecognizable. She asks him if he intends to let the sisters live, but Subaru knows he needs answers. He needs to understand what being a kindred really means. Outside the building, Subaru's attention is drawn to a massive screen displaying a news broadcast. Footage of his battle with the whale dominates the broadcast, and his face is now plastered across the city. The entire encounter has gone viral. Before he can process the situation, two players suddenly appear before him. One is Udo, the third-ranked gold player, and the other is Shikishima, the second-ranked gold player. Their presence alone is intimidating, yet Subaru senses someone even stronger nearby. The two players address someone off-screen, calling out to Hirasaka, who steps forward moments later. Smiling confidently, Hirasaka approaches Subaru. He calmly explains that Subaru is under suspicion for destroying a commercial facility near Shinagawa City, and for the murder of a fellow player, one who was Subaru's classmate. With an unsettling smile, Hirasaka adds that he simply wishes to have a conversation. He is currently the strongest player in Japan, and Subaru admires him the most. Hirasaka tells him not to be nervous, as the suspicions against him have been cleared. As they all sit in the car, he explains to him that this is the first time a rainbow door like that has appeared in the world. He has overcome 2 trials so far and even revived his friend. Subaru confirms this and asks him about the previous suspicions. One of the players tosses him a tablet, showing footage of him fighting the whale. It reveals that the destruction around the shopping mall, from start to finish, was captured on camera. The footage proves he was merely a victim targeted by Tiga. On the other hand, regarding the suspicion surrounding Kunizaki's murder, they explain that the door turning people into players appeared and bisected him. Additionally, 2 other players at the scene have testified, clearing Subaru of all accusations. Not only is Subaru no longer under suspicion, but he has also become a hero. News of him defeating an underworld creature from a 5-star gate has spread. Shikishima explains that, after hearing Subaru's story, Taiga's mysterious behavior now makes sense. Tiga only has the golden arm skill because he stole a door from another player, preventing a second door from appearing. This revealed Taiga's true motives. He kept Subaru close to stealing his door if it ever appeared again. The group moves down the headquarters floors and reaches the 6th basement level, where Tiga is locked up in a special prison designed for rogue players. Tiga growls in anger when he sees Subaru. Shikishima kicks the prison bars and tells him they have Subaru's testimony and can proceed with the investigation. Hearing this, Tiga becomes furious and threatens to kill Subaru. Sayaka to interfere, but the protagonist stops her. Strangely, he feels calm in front of the terrifying and hateful Tiga. As they leave the prison, Tiga continues to scream in rage. Udo asks Hirasaki if it's wise to let Subaru leave like this. Hirasaki reassures him, stating that they plan to grant Subaru some privileges. As he looks at a report about a 6-star gate's appearance, he reflects that they need him to grow even stronger. Later, Subaru goes to exchange the 2 stars he earned from his recent quest. The receptionist informs him he will receive 300,000 yen for the stars, plus an additional Y20 million as a bonus for defeating the 5-star underworld creature. She also hands him a card, explaining that it grants him special privileges from the Federation, allowing him to use several convenience stores and hotels free of charge. While processing all this information, Subaru overhears several players talking behind him. They recognize him from the viral video and wonder about his rank. The receptionist smiles and tells Subaru she has informed everyone about his accomplishments. She then asks him what he plans to do next. Now that he has power, fame, and money, Subaru begins to wonder what he truly wants. Meanwhile, back in the prison, Tiga causes a commotion. A girl appears and restrains him with golden chains. She is Kinokawa, a gold-ranked player and the same receptionist who spoke to Subaru earlier. Using her skill, she pins him down effortlessly. Tiga is shocked, realizing Subaru has grown overwhelmingly strong, and bitterly reflects on how he underestimated him. His anger grows, and he starts blaming the world. As Tiga's rage peaks, a dark door begins to form behind him. As the purple door appears behind them, the girl nervously asks Tiga what he just did. However, he seems just as shocked as she is. The door calls out to him, telling him that the world won't choose him. A hand emerges from inside the door, inviting him in. Though still trapped in golden chains, several hands extend from the gate and begin pulling him inside. The girl tries to stop him using a golden chain, but the energy emanating from the gate shatters her chains. Her entire body slowly begins falling apart. Meanwhile, the entity inside the door continues to lure Tiga, offering him its power and urging him to destroy the entire world. Meanwhile, in a nearby hotel, Subaru lies on the ground, lost in thought. Sayaka asks what's on his mind. He's still pondering her earlier question about what he plans to do from now on. Looking at her, he asks what he should call her since using her real name feels odd. Sayaka suggests he simply call her Saya. He then asks if there's any way to return her to her previous self. Saya asks him to show her his skill window. Seeing that his next skill unlocks at level 35, she explains that another door is likely to open at that point. She suggests he could ask the beings on the other side of the door if they can bring his friend back. Grateful for the advice, Subaru decides to focus on leveling up. The two of them immediately prepare to enter a gate. They find a 3-star gate near the entrance of a store. The store owner thanks Subaru for his help and calls him Savior. As Subaru glances back, he asks Saya if she's coming with him. She tells him she's his kindred and will follow him for life. Subaru notices her status window, showing she is level 21 and capable of using the blood mold skill. However, instead of relying on her own mana, she uses his. Inside the gate, they encounter several demons. Saya asks for permission to use his mana, and Subaru agrees, wanting to see her strength. Saya uses the blood mold skill to create a blood round, clearing all the enemies in one swoop. Subaru realizes how useful her skill is, though Saya remarks it's less effective against powerful foes. Eventually, they face the boss. Subaru orders Saya to stay back and swiftly defeats it with his divine sword. They complete the 3-star quest in just 10 minutes and 49 seconds. Subaru's level increases by 2 for clearing the quest. With the 3-star challenge being too easy, they decide to try a 4-star gate. Suddenly, they hear the voice of Shikishima, who praises their quick success. Subaru asks what he's doing there, and Shikishima explains that Tiga has escaped prison. Moreover, the 4th-ranked gold player, Sakura, was crushed while restraining him with her golden chains. Shikishima reveals that Sakura was also acting as a receptionist, which shocks Subaru, who never suspected she was a player. As they drive away, Shikishima explains that due to the current situation, gold players must team up to clear the gates. He volunteers to team up with Subaru, warning him not to disappoint. Shikishima believes Tiga will target Subaru first. Confident in their abilities, Shikishima takes Subaru to their first gate, convinced they can easily conquer it. Subaru believes that Shikishima's Golden Parade skill allows him to shoot invisible fire bullets from his fingers. However, when he sees Shikishima use the skill, he is shocked to witness meteorites raining down on their enemies. The underworld creatures they face are far from weak, yet Shikishima makes them seem like mere 1-star creatures, eliminating all of them in a single attack. After the battle, Shikishima explains that gold players must follow strict rules outside the gates. They are prohibited from using skills beyond their first one, as higher-tier skills can cause catastrophic damage in the real world. After wiping out the enemies, he signals Subaru to move forward. Shikishima elaborates that the top gold players earn the title of the 7 Knights, bestowed upon them by the owners of their respective doors. The entity that granted Shikishima his power is an incarnation of Dragoon. The skill he just used is called Barrage of Dead Flames. As they approach the next gate, Shikishima tells Subaru to start scouting for future gates. Shikishima then eliminates the boss in a single attack, clearing the gate in just 52 minutes. Subaru is stunned by the immense strength of a gold player. Shikishima apologizes for finishing the gate by himself, and promises that the next one will be Subaru's challenge. The next gate is a glass waterfall stage with a 4-star difficulty rating. The entire terrain is coated in ice, making movement difficult. In these types of areas, there are no low-level creatures. Players face only a single boss. The boss, a level 42 class spirit shaped like a cat, immediately lunges at Subaru. Subaru blocks the attack with his divine sword. As he prepares for a second strike, he notices the boss already regenerating. Realizing his divine sword consumes too much mana to finish the fight, Subaru hesitates. Sei offers to support him, but Shikishima stops her. He wants Subaru to face the boss alone, assuring her he will step in if Subaru is on the verge of defeat. As Subaru continues to battle, he realizes his blood mold skill is incompatible with the icy terrain. Running out of options, he uses his skill to blindfold the cat, but the boss still manages to track him. The second gold player watching the fight begins to think Subaru is too inexperienced to handle such a rare and powerful boss. However, Saya confidently tells them not to underestimate Subaru. She points out that he has already devised a counterattack. Subaru uses his blood technique to create a rope and wraps it around the cat. Knowing the boss lacks joints or conventional senses, he decides against striking it with the divine sword. Instead, he opts for a high-impact attack. Subaru combines the corpse fist spell he obtained from Carrion with his blood mold skill to land powerful blows on the boss. He relentlessly continues the assault until the boss is drained of mana and unable to regenerate. Shikishima is surprised by Subaru's ability to quickly analyze the boss's traits and develop a strategy. He is even more impressed by Subaru's skillful combination of two abilities. Saya smiles, pleased to see Shikishima acknowledging Subaru's potential. As Subaru continues fighting the boss, Shikishima notices that both of them are getting tired. He calls out to Subaru, telling him he will buy him some time to land the final blow. Subaru takes the opportunity and successfully defeats the boss, instantly leveling up. Afterward, he finishes off the cat spirit without any trouble, clearing the entire gate in just 48 minutes. Later, they visit a sushi shop where Subaru stares at the sushi with sparkling eyes. Shikishima asks him what's wrong, and Subaru, wearing an innocent expression, admits it's the first time in his life he has ever seen sushi. Meanwhile, Saya plays with the cat spirit Subaru received after defeating the boss. The spirit allows Subaru to regenerate the boss using his mana whenever needed. Shikishima compares it to Hirasaka earrings, which grant plus 150% mana, and a coat that reduces damage taken by 50%. He mentions that his divine sword is also a reward he earned after defeating Carrion. Subaru asks what the cat spirit is useful for. Shikishima explains that it's rare to have an underwater creature as a summon and suggests giving it a name. After thinking for a moment, Subaru settles on the name Sushi. As they eat, they suddenly hear loud noises coming from outside. An underworld creature, a level 54 griffin, has emerged from the gate. Subaru and Shikishima immediately rush out. The griffin captures a little girl, but as it flies away, it is stopped by Shikishima and Saya working together. Subaru quickly strikes, causing Griffin to drop the girl safely into his arms. He gently places her on the ground. A man frantically approaches, calling out the girl's name. Subaru recognizes him as one of the people who bullied him when he was powerless. The man, Savatari, turns out to be the girl's older brother. Shikishima calls him out, asking if he's the same person who bullied Subaru, and demands he thank Subaru for saving his sister. Savatari, however, refuses to express gratitude to someone like Subaru. The girl, ignoring her brother, immediately thanks Subaru and the others. Savatari scolds her for thanking Subaru, then turns to Subaru, calling him an insect. He mocks Subaru, asking why he is in such a good mood and if he plans to take revenge. Subaru remains calm, simply smiling in response. This infuriates Savatari, who grabs Subaru by the shirt, claiming he wishes he had been chosen by a stronger door. Subaru, unfazed, responds that he has heard Savatari's testimony and knows he isn't a murderer. He thanks him and walks away without saying anything else. Savatari stands there shocked. Shikishima observes and thinks that Savatari will eventually understand how different Subaru is. The three friends return to the sushi shop and continue their meal. Meanwhile, the girl asks Savatari what's wrong with him. He grabs his head, overwhelmed by his feelings of inadequacy. The next day, when Subaru returns to the sushi shop, he finds it closed. At the same time, Savatari deletes an old video from his phone showing him bullying Subaru. One of his friends questions if he really deleted the video, and Savatari admits he did. He explains that it's not out of fear of Subaru seeking revenge but doesn't elaborate further. As he looks at his phone, his friend notices commotion on the school grounds and points it out. Subaru receives a call from Shikishima, who informs him that Tiga has appeared at his school. Savatari receives a message from his sister Kana, who tells him that she would like to eat pork cutlet for dinner. He takes a moment to think before replying. Suddenly, his friend frantically pulls him away from his phone and points to the stadium. The two of them look out the window of the classroom in fear. Outside, they see Tiga walking out of a purple door with a terrifying aura surrounding him. A mysterious dark door appears next to Savatari and his friend in the gym by the ring. It's not just them. Mysterious doors have started appearing everywhere, and someone seems ready to open one. Tiga announces to the entire school these doors can grant them a new power strong enough to rival a gold rank. Everyone thinks about his words in confusion as he invites them to enter the gates and join forces with him. Meanwhile, Shikishima shows a photo of the newly revamped Tiga to Subaru and tells him that he has entered the school. Bro is more worried about him copying his hairstyle. As they all rush to the school, Subaru asks about the door behind Tiga in the photo. Shikishima says he doesn't know much but suspects it's something bad. The group takes the shortest route to the school. At the school, Savatari stares at the door while his friend wonders if they should go in or not. At the same time, Tiga enters the classroom and asks them what is troubling them so much. He questions if they are okay with being weak while there are players stronger than them who have overcome the same trial. Savatari stands there, lost in thought as he recalls his past. He remembers Kana sitting in a messy room, crying and wondering why their parents weren't there. She blames herself, thinking they don't love her. He reassures her with a smile, telling her she has him and asking her not to cry. On the streets, workers kick him as he digs through trash. Cold and hungry, he passes a house where a family celebrates their son's birthday. As the mother notices him staring inside, she quickly closes the curtains. Saddened, he wonders what will happen to Kana when he's gone. He collapses, ready to give up when a 5-star bronze door appears before him. Back in the present, Sawatari asks Tiga why he is doing all this since he is also among the chosen ones. Tiga laughs and tells him that it was Subaru who was the chosen one and he simply stole his door. They are told that the doors choose people based on the purity of their soul, and he can't believe for a second that his soul is inferior to Subaru's. Knowing that he was able to get a rainbow door angers him. He insists Subaru should have stayed beneath him forever and declares his intent to change the world, using the back door that chose him. Tiga then asks Sawatari to join forces with him since they both want to take revenge on Subaru. Sawatari doesn't feel the same, but he also can't refuse his offer since he fears he might get killed. He wants to stay alive for his sister. As he walks towards the door with his friend, he hears a notification on his phone. It's a message from Kana, thanking him and calling him kind for agreeing to have pork cutlet. This takes him back to the past once again. When the bronze door appeared before him again, he saw it as a chance to provide for Kana. At school, Sawatari formed a group of bullies to get back at those who wronged them. The group learns that Tiga has joined their school and hears his brother studies there too. They find Subaru in a classroom, nervous and wearing glasses. Sawatari mocks him, throwing stones and smearing him with a dirty mop. Despite Kana's praise, he realizes he's not truly kind. He is just a weakling who has done bad things to someone weaker than him. Standing before the door with his phone in hand, he wonders what to do. He suddenly asks his friend Itoshima to make a pork cutlet for his sister tonight. The friend is confused but agrees. Sawatari then looks at him with a smile and asks him to also apologize to his sister on his behalf. He turns back to Tiga and prepares to fight him with his powers. Tiga asks him why he is doing it. Sawatari reveals that Subaru had saved his sister the previous day. He recalls that he never blamed him, but instead thanked him. This made him feel insignificant. He remembers lying on the ground, exhausted, thinking about Kana and what would happen to her after he was gone. He also remembers how Subaru selflessly killed the griffin and saved his sister. No matter how terrible the world became, Subaru's presence always made things feel like they'd be okay. Hearing this, Tiga jumps from the windowsill to the ground and asks him if he is really trying to get close to the guy he bullied. Sawatari says that he doesn't care about all that anymore since he knows that Subaru has a big heart and he will forgive him. Meanwhile, Subaru and the gold rank have almost reached the school. Tiga hears all of this with a shocked expression, but when he gets called pathetic, he loses it and grabs Sawatari's head. Even during his final moments, his last thoughts are of his sister. All he wants is to see her happy. Subaru finally makes it to the classroom and immediately lunges at Tiga, shouting with anger. Tiga seems pleased to see him. Subaru freezes in horror when he notices Sawatari lying in a pool of blood. Consumed with rage, Subaru punches Tiga so hard that he breaks the wall of the classroom. However, Tiga seems unfazed by this and smirks at the thought of their rematch. Subaru and Tiga fall to the ground amidst the debris. Subaru feels no kindness toward Sawatari but cannot understand why Tiga killed him. Furious, he screams at him as they land. Tiga grins since he wants him to show his true strength. Suddenly, Subaru's blood gauntlet starts to disintegrate into dust. He stares at his hand in confusion. Tiga laughs as he looks at his face and says that it's a bit too early to use it, but it is surely enough to finish him off. A gunshot distracts Tiga. As he looks over, he sees the 3 golden ranks standing in the distance. Tiga laughs as he tells them that this is the second time they have surrounded him. He asks them if it was so surprising for them that he was able to defeat the girl. As he is talking, Hirasaka slashes off his arm clean. Tiga is in immense pain, but he still laughs and says that this is the first time seeing a negative expression on his face. Hirasaka agrees with him saying that he is angry, and it is surprising for him too. Subaru stands stunned by the top gold rank's power. Hirasaka asks him if he is okay, and he nods. This makes Tiga furious, and he goes in for an attack. A massive arm tries to squish Hirasaka, and as he uses his sword to defend, it shatters into pieces. Subaru, still grappling with what's happening, shouts at him, but before he can act, Udu traps Tiga within a golden wall. Subaru jumps away from the forming barrier as Udu focuses all his energy on containing Tiga. Since this is his second spell, he has broken the rules by using it outside of a gate. While Tiga is trapped, Shikishima and Saya attempt coordinated attacks, but he easily nullifies them. The golden wall begins to crack, and Tiga's laugh echoes as the barrier collapses completely. Even Udu is astonished by Taiga's strength. His power is far beyond what anyone expected. The group knows that there is a special effect in Taiga's smoke. Udu asks for Hirasaka's permission to use his other skills, but he tells him that he will only endanger the lives of other people by doing so. This is exactly what Taiga wants to happen. Shikishima starts thinking about the special effect of Taiga's skill. He remembers that Kinokawa's hands and feet were crumbled and weathered down in an instant after her recent encounter with Taiga. If his thought process is correct, Taiga's special skill would be to speed up time. As the gold ranks face off against him, Subaru suddenly charges at him out of nowhere. Shikishima tries to stop him from going inside the smoke since it advances time for everything that it touches. Despite the warning, our boy goes into the smoke and manages to land a hit on Taiga with his face covered in blood. He used his blood mold skill to constantly spread new blood around his body, which protected him from the smoke. As Taiga looks at him in confusion, he tells him that his time to be afraid of him is over. My man levels up and uses a spell called Immortal Inverness. Taiga is furious after Subaru's sharp comments. Suddenly, doors appear around them, positioned near the players. Subaru glances at the purple doors surrounding the players and notices smoke seeping out. The players instinctively gather in the center to avoid the smoke. Hirasaka is surprised because it's his first time seeing a skill that can summon doors. Taiga tells him that since he can block his smoke, he will just start killing his friends. He closes his eyes and remembers when Sayaka died because of him. The group is surrounded by thick smoke and has no way to escape. Keeping these circumstances in mind, Hirasaka allows Shikishima and Udu to use their second-level skills freely. The tension rises as rainbow energy envelops the area, making everyone uneasy. Subaru calls out Taiga directly and asks him how he dared to put his hands on his friends. He is now completely engulfed with rage. The intensity of his hatred activates his conditional skill, which boosts his abilities by 30% as long as his hatred persists. Previously, the skill's effect was insignificant due to a power gap, but now Subaru surpasses Taiga. Subaru and Taiga charge at each other. Smoke surrounds Taiga as Subaru attacks from above. Taiga blocks his kick but struggles to withstand the force, breaking his arm in the process. The MC follows up with his blood whip, wrapping them around Taiga's injured arm. Despite Taiga's screams, he continues his relentless assault, landing a powerful punch that sends him flying and splattering blood everywhere. Using the Immortal Inverness skill, Subaru enhances his nervous system and gains control over the tentacles coming out of his armor. He doesn't have to control them manually now. These tentacles make escape nearly impossible for anyone who is unfortunate enough to be caught in them. Taiga falls to the ground, badly injured. A voice suddenly echoes from the black door, which says that the blood manipulation technique that the protagonist is using comes straight from Vanquish. Therefore, Taiga stands no chance in his current state. Shikishima screams at Subaru to stop since they want to ask him more questions. This snaps him out of his rage. His rainbow eyes fade as he regains his composure and asks what they should do about the smoke. Shikishima suggests using Saya's abilities to clear the fog. Blood stains the ground near the door, and the group feels uneasy due to the metallic taste and smell of iron. Shikishima explains that the smoke is a chemical reaction, and it starts to disappear once it is in contact with the fog particles. He then looks directly at the door and asks the door owner if he is correct. Suddenly, a massive yellow eye emerges from the black door. The owner's voice commends the group for countering its skills so quickly. When Shikishima demands to know the entity's purpose, it reveals its intent to destroy the sky clock. This surprises Subaru and the others. The creature mentions a prophecy involving Hirasaka, Shikishima, and Udu, predicting their deaths at Taiga's hands in the near future. However, Subaru claims that the prophecy is wrong since he will never let that happen. This makes the creature laugh, and it says that he is the most vigilant among the entire group. Subaru demands a name from the owner, to which it states that it is Kokugaiji, the Black Amniotic King. A group of students stands near a fence, discussing Taiga's defeat. The three of them gather on the school roof, where a friend asks Kei what they should do. They notice a dark force on the roof of a neighboring building. Kei stays focused, deep in thought. Back in the battle, Kokugaji tells them that it is a being who wants to destroy the entire world. Subaru furiously tries to attack, but the door disappears and sucks Taiga inside. All the gold ranks try to take the door down before the creature can escape, but they fail to do so. After it vanishes, Saya mocks them for allowing the creature to escape. Shikishima reveals that he couldn't move during the fight since he was restrained. 2 additional enemies appeared on the rooftop during their fight, and he claims that they are even stronger than Taiga. This revelation makes Subaru believe that their enemies are already ahead of them in terms of their plans. Inside the door, the creature scolds Taiga for being weak and losing to the gold ranks. However, it offers to make him even more strong. Kokugaji also welcomes all the players who choose to enter the doors. One of the players tells him that they will betray him immediately if they don't become stronger. Among those players is Kei and a guy wearing a black suit. Kei tells the guy that he saw him there, and that was the reason he entered the door. The creature seems excited to see all these people and invites them to prepare for their plan. Meanwhile, a funeral is held for Sawatari outside the gate. His sister holds his picture in her arms as she mindlessly stares at the ground. Itoshima is also attending the funeral. He tells Subaru how Sawatari apologized to him in his final moments. Later, Subaru sits with Shikishima as he tells him about the black door. After the incident, 5 students were found in the school, and there have also been other people who disappeared from the city. Subaru tells him that he plans on getting stronger, and asks about the situation of Sayaka when he enters the next door. Shikishima suggests that he train with Hirasaka from now on. The next day, he goes to meet Hirasaka with Saya. Shikishima didn't think that he could teach him anything since their methods of fighting were different. Therefore, he thought that it was better for him to train with the top rank. Subaru is excited since he knows that he will get to learn a lot. As the two of them walk towards their gate, they come across the Happy Yamada Club, which is a silver team led by Yamada. They tell him that they have already reserved this gate. Hirasaka checks his book and apologizes, telling them that his door is in Narima City. It is a 4-star gate called the Mysterious Jungle. As they enter the gate, Hirasaka warns the protagonist by telling him that the difficulty on the door is only an approximation. Subaru suddenly screams as he realizes that the guy is literally standing in a swamp. Hirasaka stays still and sinks in the swamp completely. Subaru remembers how Shikishima told him to be careful around him since his only specialty is his strength. He thinks about helping him using his blood mold skill, but a giant iron ant shows up. Suddenly, Hirasaka uses his Titan's blade spell and gets out of the swamp while killing the ant at the same time. Subaru can't help but feel grateful that this man became a player. On the other hand, Hirasaka thinks to himself that he almost died. Hirasaka never had any specialty throughout his entire childhood. His parents expected him to be clever, but instead of being disappointed in him, they continued to shower him with love and care. While he was in 4th grade, he saved one of his friends from getting bullied. However, the very next day, that same friend got together with the bullies to beat him up. This betrayal shocked Hirasaka deeply, and he realized that people often betray others due to their own weaknesses. From that day on, he decided never to betray anyone, and by doing so, he truly believed that he would make a true friend. Back in the gate, he was once again stuck in the swamp. He asks Subaru for help and he pulls him out. He tells him that his opponent seemed to have good intuition, so he was batting it out. Moments later, a huge creature comes out of the swamp trying to eat Hirasaka. Subaru now realizes that Hirasaka is the type of player to always go first against an unknown enemy. He doesn't want his friends to get in trouble. After finishing the swamp monster, Subaru hands him a towel to clean himself up. Seeing this, Hirasaka laughs and tells him that he came well prepared. It was Shikishima who gave him all of this stuff. He told him that he would need these items during their raid. Hearing this, Hirasaka laughs even more and tells him that Shikishima has the hardest time because of him out of all of his comrades. As the two of them are inside the gate, he is stuck doing paperwork. Udo tells him to take it slow and let Hirasaka do some work too. Shikishima gets even more furious and says that it's meaningless since he is bad with desk work. They are short on staff since Kinokawa is still in the hospital. Hirasaka reveals that he had been working together with the other 3 gold ranks since the founding of the Players' Federation. They have been comrades for the past 8 years. This is why he couldn't hold himself when he found out what Tiga did to Kinokawa. He tells Subaru that he has no choice but to beat his brother now. The MC doesn't like him either, so he tells him that he is ready for anything. The 3 of them make it to the edge of a cliff. Even though they can't see much, Hirasaka tells them that the boss is about 20 kilometers ahead of them. It is one of his skills that allows him to zoom his vision up to 100 times. The boss is a huge tree with glowing eyes. It is called the Gun Turret Spirit Tree. Immediately after spotting them, the boss goes in for an attack. Hirasaka realizes this and immediately uses his golden sword to shield them. The 3 cause powerful explosions in a massive area around it. The top rank tells them that this is what he meant when he said that the difficulty level on the doors was just an approximation. Even though they are inside a 4-star gate, the boss they are facing is definitely a lower 5-star. Subaru starts to panic as he realizes that they would have probably died if Hirasaka hadn't shielded them using his sword. He uses his blood skill to fly high in the air. It consumes mana, so he can't keep it up for long. However, Hirasaka tells him that he has done well since the boss is already dead. While they were in the air, he used his Warp Edge spell, which allowed him to warp the slash along with the blade to any place within his sight. Using this technique drains a lot of mana, but if it's aimed correctly, it can take down even the strongest of enemies. The 3 of them get out of the gate after defeating the boss. Hirasaka apologizes for killing the boss by himself and tells him not to reveal anything to Shikishima. However, it is far too late since Subaru has already sent the report to him. As Shikishima furiously drags him inside, he says his goodbyes to the MC and asks him to be prepared for tomorrow since he is going to reserve a 5-star gate. This shocks him a bit since he has never been inside a 5-star gate before. While sitting on his bed, He thinks to himself that he needs to learn from Hirasaka's fighting style. However, even after a lot of reflection, he still can't get anything. Meanwhile, the guy in the black suit tells one of his subordinates that it is time to put their plan into action. In Shinagawa City, a player group known as Grax meets Kei and his friend as they just walk out of the Purple Gate. The situation is similar in Bunkyo City, where Giulietta is confronted by a player who wants to kill him. The mastermind behind all of this is the guy in the black suit who fixes his glasses as he announces that the hunt has begun. Back at headquarters, Giulietta calls to inform Shikishima that he has killed someone. Furious, Shikishima reminds him that he is supposed to remain in confinement until his punishment is decided. He explains that he was attacked and acted in self-defense. When Shikishima asks for details about his opponent, he looks at a player card and reveals the name Kishikawa, a copper-ranked player. Giulietta mentions that although Kishikawa wasn't particularly strong, there was something unusual about his insect manipulation skills, which seemed to be connected to the black faction Shikishima had previously reported. Shikishima looks for his details in the player records and realizes that the spell Kishikawa used is different from anything documented. He theorizes that the Black Door might be giving new skills to these players. It wasn't just Giulietta who was attacked. The entire Grax team was defeated by the black faction. While fighting Kishikawa, Giulietta sensed that their system was different from other players, similar to Subaru's skills obtained from the Rainbow Door. Meanwhile, a man calls Kei and reports that everything has gone according to plan, although one of their members lost to Giulietta. The boss reveals he has already eliminated the top-ranked silver team and plans to target the gold ranks next. The scene shifts to a city where Subaru, Hirasaka, and Kusaka, a member of the reconnaissance department, stand in front of a 5-star gate. Kusaka explains the procedure for studying and clearing the gate. Subaru notices a ring on Kusaka's finger and asks if she is married. She confirms this and explains that, due to the risks players face, she retired from frontline duty after marrying. Shikishima recruited her into the reconnaissance department. She reveals that her family was in the city when it was attacked by the whale. She thanks Subaru for saving them. The gate they are about to enter is called the Seat of Storm and Thunder. It consists of 2 areas, a garden and a palace with 2 thrones on its top floor. Hirasaka asks if this is where the boss resides, and Kusaka confirms that the boss could occupy either throne. Subaru is surprised to learn there are 2 bosses, recalling that he faced a 2-boss team in a 2-star gate, but never expected it in his first 5-star gate. Hirasaka reassures Subaru, calming his nerves as they prepare to enter the gate. As the 3 enter, Kei, who had been waiting outside, attacks the team. He calls someone, instructing them to open the black door in 10 minutes. On the other end of the call, Tiga appears in a transformed state. Inside the 5-star gate, the team finds a massive palace. Hirasaka immediately senses something is wrong and asks Saya to lock the door. She complies, and as the door shuts, dark clouds gather, strong winds blow, and an overwhelming presence fills the air. The 2 bosses emerge, Storm Delta, a level 89 boss, and Thunder Killam, a level 93 boss. Both bosses recognize the shining knight among the players and sense Subaru and Saya's presence, which they find unpleasant. As the battle begins, knight soldiers approach, each stronger than the whale Subaru previously fought. Subaru shouts to Saya to use as much mana as needed, and she begins casting various spells. Realizing the difficulty of the situation, Subaru knows he must go all out from the start. Without hesitation, he activates his Immortal Inverness spell and charges into battle. Hirasaka raises 2 fingers, and a bright golden light surrounds the guards. A massive blade shoots up from the ground, cutting some guards to pieces. Yet, even after the powerful attack, half of them remain standing. As he continues fighting, Hirasaka notices Subaru targeting a guard's leg. Surprisingly, the guard grabs Subaru by the leg, flips him over, and slams him onto the ground. Stunned, Subaru feels the guard punch his chest, breaking his suit. The blow is stronger than anything Subaru has faced before, even from Sushi or Carrion. The guard prepares another attack, but Hirasaka shouts to Subaru. With rainbow-colored eyes, Subaru kicks the guard and follows with an elbow strike, breaking through the guard's defenses. Shocked but determined, Subaru declares he isn't there to hold Hirasaka back. He uses his blood whip to trap the guard, twisting him before smashing him with a drill. The 54th level Thunderstorm Knight falls, but Subaru is left shaken. His level doesn't increase, and he only gains a few points. Subaru remains at level 31, with a third of his health and half his mana gone, all for defeating just 1 guard. Now 4 more surround him. He draws his Divine Chisel but hesitates to use a high-cost attack. Suddenly the knights use their Vajra sword skill, summoning weapons out of thin air. Subaru realizes this is the true challenge of the 5th difficulty level. As Subaru steadies himself, Hirasaka watches the knights close in. Subaru's expression turns cold, but a faint smile appears. The night before, sitting in his hotel room, Subaru thinks about the raid. No matter how much he admires Hirasaka, he knows he can't become him, and doesn't need to. Shikishima hasn't sent him to learn from Hirasaka, but to fight alongside him with everything he has. Covered in blood, Subaru vows to grow stronger, not just in level but in awareness, readiness, and the will to survive. Memories of Sayaka's death, Sawatari's pain, and Kana's loss fuel his resolve. As the guards attack, Subaru jumps to meet them. With his chisel, he blocks their swords but struggles to stand. One guard cuts his blood armor from behind, enraging Subaru. Using blood tentacles, he grabs the guard's arm, slashes it off, and decapitates him. The others stand shocked as Subaru defeats the level 59 opponent. Critically injured, Subaru levels up, restoring his health and mana. When the guards attack again, Subaru vanishes and reappears in the sky. He swings his chisel, killing 2 knights, levels 53 and 63. His level rises again. Standing in the rain, Subaru's rainbow-colored eyes meet the terrified gaze of the remaining guards. Something inside him has changed. Earlier, Shikishima had instructed Hirasaka not to save Subaru until the last moment, and to avoid giving him tips. When asked why, Shikishima explained that Subaru had the potential to reach their level. He only needed practice and a fierce battle to push him to his limits. Shikishima admitted he couldn't teach others, and urged Hirasaka to inspire Subaru by demonstrating his strength. Calling Hirasaka the strongest, Shikishima left him to reflect on his role. Now standing in the rain, Hirasaka smiles at the thought. As guards attack, he makes 2 swift swings, effortlessly defeating them. Watching Subaru, Hirasaka wonders if he might one day become a beacon of hope. He remembers the report about the appearance of a 6-star gate. 8 years have passed since the first gate appeared, and despair grips the top players. When the first gate emerged, its maximum difficulty was 3 stars. But over time, the challenge escalated. 4-star gates appeared 3 years later, followed by 5-star gates. Each increase in stars brought a 10-fold rise in difficulty. The association predicts a 6-star gate will appear soon, and Shikishima foresees a 7-star gate in 4 years. He and Hirasaka discuss their predicament at a long table. Shikishima asks if they are 10 times stronger than 2 years ago. Hirasaka admits they're not. To handle a 6-star gate, they would need their entire gold-ranked team. Shikishima, frustrated, laments that players may soon be unable to match the gate's ever-growing difficulty. He wonders who could survive a challenge 10 times harder than a 5-star gate. Shikishima realizes the sky clock would break after just 1 failure since the time limit for 5-star gates is already stretched to its limit. He begins to believe humanity might have no choice but to accept defeat. Hirasaka feels the weight of his fears, thinking about the friends he might lose. Suddenly, Shikishima takes a call from Kinokawa, who's at a hospital with Udu. She mentions they're interrogating suspects in a murder case and shares strange information. The appearance of a rainbow door. This piques the interest of both Shikishima and Hirasaka. Meanwhile, Subaru battles a knight with everything he has. Using his heaven sword, he clashes with the guard, his movements sharp and precise. Hirasaka observes Subaru, impressed that the boy now relies solely on his swordsmanship. During the fight, Subaru maneuvers onto the guard's arm and unleashes his divine chisel, cutting through his opponent. He defeats the level 56 Wind and Thunder Guard with a focused fury. Subaru begins to understand his weapon better. By focusing on the tip of the blade, he activates a technique that pierces strong defenses while conserving mana. Hirasaka notices Subaru's growth, not from instruction, but from learning through his battles. In the sky, Saya uses her Killing Field skill, scattering blood drops that explode on contact. Despite her efforts, she realizes her attacks aren't enough to handle the guards at her level. She focuses on reducing their numbers for Subaru and Hirasaka, while prioritizing the recovery of Sayaka's body. Just as a golden sword threatens her, Subaru intervenes, splitting it in 2. He tells Saya to stay safe and be careful before returning to his fight. Subaru then joins Hirasaka, sharing his frustration about the difficulty of leveling up at this stage. Hirasaka explains the palace might be an extra stage, similar to the cat boss stage Subaru once faced, where only bosses appeared. Subaru realizes the guards are summoned by a skill, yielding minimal experience points. There are only 2 bosses here, Thunder and Storm, who sit on their thrones. Storm notes the player's focus, and Thunder smirks, asking if they'll send someone stronger or fight themselves. Lightning streaks across the sky. Subaru resolves to keep fighting knights to level up, but Hirasaka feels their energy is being wasted. He suspects the bosses want to force them to reveal their trump cards. Suddenly, Thunder and Storm step out of the palace. Hirasaka's eyes widen at the sight of the bosses. He considers using his Warp Edge Sword, a skill that consumes 80% of his mana and can split terrain. Yet before he acts, the rain stops, and the thunderclouds vanish. The bosses appear behind him, warning them not to attempt any tricks. They demand a fair fight, ready to face the players head-on. As the 2 of them face the bosses, they are both shocked to discover that the bosses can talk. Subaru recalls a similar encounter with a boss in the soldier dumping ground. Most bosses behave like wild animals, attacking and eliminating any intruders in their territory. However, these bosses are different. They can manipulate the weather and strategize their actions. Before engaging in battle, Hirasaka asks the bosses if they have time for a conversation. The bosses, surprised by the request, ask if he has something he wants to know. Clenching his fist, Hirasaka questions them about the doors, demanding to know their purpose in appearing in the world. The bosses exchange shocked glances and ask if he hasn't learned anything from Ludwig, the gate's owner who granted him his powers. Hearing this, Hirasaka wonders if the bosses are closely connected to the central figure behind the doors. The bosses reveal that they have been trapped in this place for a long time and agree to share what they know. Subaru and Hirasaka can hardly believe they might uncover the secrets of the world so easily. Hirasaka quickly pulls out his phone to record the conversation, lacking confidence in his ability to remember it all. However, as the bosses begin to speak, their words become garbled and incomprehensible, like a glitch. Frustrated, the bosses apologize, explaining that a protective force prevents them from sharing such information. Subaru wonders aloud if there are limits to what the bosses can reveal. Hirasaka, refusing to give up, asks if they can write the information instead of speaking it. He fears that Shikishima will be furious if he returns empty-handed. The bosses dismiss the idea, stating it's impossible. However, they propose a challenge. If Subaru and Hirasaka can defeat them, they'll be one step closer to the truth. The bosses settle their roles by playing a few rounds of rock, paper, scissors. The storm boss wins and immediately chooses Hirasaka as his opponent, charging at him with no warning. Hirasaka barely manages to block the attack at the last second. As their battle intensifies, the storm boss praises Hirasaka's strength, remarking that Ludwig chose the perfect possessor. Hirasaka realizes this boss is far stronger than anything he has ever faced. Meanwhile, Subaru finds himself face-to-face with the Thunder Boss. Overwhelmed, he instinctively steps back in shock. The Thunder Boss looks annoyed and mutters about having to deal with the hated immortal possessor. Hearing this, Subaru nervously asks what he means. The Thunder Boss clarifies that it's not Subaru's fault, but doesn't elaborate further. Despite the intimidating presence of his opponent, Subaru feels oddly calm. The casual conversation confuses his senses, making him temporarily forget the gravity of the situation. The boss tells him he plans to have some fun before finishing him off. Before Subaru can react, the Thunder Boss launches a thunder attack. Subaru underestimates the boss's strength and is struck directly, his body burned beyond recognition. The Thunder Boss, disappointed, compares Subaru to a crushed bug, too weak to be worth the effort. As the boss mocks Subaru's fragility, Hirasaka glances back at his fallen friend. The Storm Boss takes advantage of this distraction, delivering a devastating blow that destroys one of Hirasaka's eyes. The Thunder Boss picks up Subaru's divine sword, surprised to see it unharmed by his lightning strike. Realizing the sword's power is the source of Subaru's imbalance, the boss concludes that Subaru must be the possessor of the immortal god Vanquish. As the Thunder Boss contemplates his next move, Saya's desperate voice rings out. The Thunder Boss warns her not to try anything or else she will face the same fate as Subaru. With her face streaming with tears, she remembers his words asking her to stay safe. She screams at him to stand up. The boss dismisses her cries, pointing out that Subaru's legs have been destroyed and he can no longer fight. Suddenly, Subaru's voice cuts through the chaos. He tells Saya to stay out of the battle. He used the same technique he employed against Tiga. Subaru encased his body in a semi-hardened layer of blood. Though he has lost both his hands and feet, he clings to life with only 117 HP remaining. Even though this is the strongest opponent he has ever faced, Subaru views this as an opportunity. He knows that if he can survive this fight, he will emerge significantly stronger. The Thunder Boss questions Subaru's method, asking if he's truly using blood to block his attack. He mocks his grotesque appearance and calls him a disgusting, hated immortal. The Storm Boss is enjoying the battle a bit too much, laughing as he attacks Hirasaki. He tells him that he respects him. Even though Hirasaki has lost his right eye, he can still manage to keep up with him. Hirasaki responds, saying that his remaining eye shines even brighter than before, and therefore his attacks will also be sharper. His next attack shocks the boss, throwing him back. The Storm Boss laughs, but Hirasaki tells him that not everyone is strong from the beginning. When they were weak, there were still many times they felt like they were on the edge, just like this. He then thinks of the Storm Boss and says that if he can defeat him, he'll become even stronger. Hirasaki uses his fifth skill, called Imperial Radiance. This skill increases all abilities and skill effects by 130% while consuming mana. The boss asks if this is Hirasaki's trump card, and comments that he is as impressive as expected with this. The boss charges at Hirasaki trying to punch him. Meanwhile, the battle between Subaru and the Thunder Boss seems one-sided. Subaru is trying to run, but the speed of lightning itself is 100,000 km/s, making it difficult to avoid. He must predict the boss's next moves while continuously moving without delay. If he fails to avoid an attack, he will die instantly. As the boss continues his attacks, Subaru starts to panic. He knows that if things continue like this, all the soldiers will be defeated. With his current HP, one hit from the lightning will kill him. His plan is to try and defeat some soldiers and level up to restore his health. Finally, he finds a soldier in his path and smashes his head off. The boss looks at him, surprised, as he levels up and restores his health. The benefits of leveling up also include increased status. Subaru's health is fully recovered, and the lost body parts have been restored. The boss is slightly impressed but still doesn't think Subaru can win. Subaru hits him with a pressurized blood attack, but the boss simply blocks it with his fist. He tells Subaru that even though his power has increased, it really wouldn't make a difference. Subaru flies into the air and tries to attack the boss again. The boss gets annoyed and says that he finally understands why Subaru was chosen as the hated immortal possessor. He talks about Subaru's determination, saying that he hates giving up, desperately clings to his life, and ends up doing meaningless things. He unleashes a thunder attack in the air, deflecting Subaru's attack. Subaru realizes that if things keep going like this, he won't even manage to land a hit and will just get overwhelmed by the boss's power. The boss tells him that there's no point in using his little tricks in front of such overwhelming power. Even if Subaru has a plan to land a hit with his current power, it won't do anything. The boss is interrupted by Sushi, who casually grabs the divine sword and walks towards Subaru. Without a second thought, the boss blasts Sushi with a thunder attack. However, instead of dying, Sushi is revived using mana, which confuses the boss even more. Even Subaru had forgotten that Sushi had the ability to regenerate. He wonders if Sushi is trying to help him after understanding his strategy. He calls out to Sushi and orders her to bring him the sword. Sushi throws the sword to Subaru, but immediately after, the boss appears in front of him. As the boss tries to grab the sword, Subaru laughs, and the now giant Sushi appears behind him. The boss quickly reacts and destroys Sushi with a single kick. The boss realizes that Sushi is a familiar connection to Subaru's soul. While the boss is distracted, Subaru charges up his divine sword. He puts all his mana into a single attack and destroys all the soldiers on the ground. This is enough for him to level up to 35. The boss wastes no time and tries to attack him. He furiously asks Subaru why he clings so desperately to his life, and why he has to do that just for the sake of living. After hearing this, Subaru thinks back to his life when everyone called him an insect. He also thinks about the people who supported him. He tells the boss that he just wants to meet his friend, Sayaka. Even though their time together was short, the moments when they were hunting together were fun. He just wants to meet her again and thank her. He also wants to apologize to her and grow stronger together. The boss is a bit confused and asks Subaru what he means. Subaru explains that this was the reason he bet everything on his plan. He knew that there was a high possibility of a third door appearing when he unlocked his second skill. His second skill unlocked at level 35, and sure enough, the rainbow door showed up. As the Thunder Boss accidentally enters the door, he sees Vanquish, who tells him to prepare himself to be punished for hurting his possessor. Vanquish tells Subaru that he did a good job and that he has won. He grabs him using blood and tells the Thunder Boss that the kid will come back stronger. Thunderkill isn't done with Vanquish yet. He still remembers how he killed him in the past. He screams at him as he charges his thunder attack and tells him that he won't let him leave. As he attacks Vanquish, he unknowingly walks inside the door. Vanquish lays Subaru down on the ground and asks him if he really likes appearing in front of him on the verge of death. Subaru still can't believe that this guy is Vanquish. He heals Subaru using his spell, which enables him to stand up. Subaru looks around and realizes that the Thunder Boss is mad now. Vanquish asks the boss to leave since this is his gate. Thunderkill screams at him and says that he was the one who intervened in a one-on-one fight. He tells him that he will go after him after finishing the boy. Vanquish makes an annoyed face and tells him not to use the rules of the warriors for a king. He says that he is the one who entered the human world without permission and is now forcing them into a one-on-one fight. However, Vanquish accepts his challenge and combines with Subaru to take over his body. He tells him that he will show him how to actually use blood mold. Vanquish is a bit impressed to see Subaru at level 35. The Thunder Boss can't believe that he is planning to defeat him using that body. Vanquish looks at him with a smirk on his face and says that it is enough to beat someone like him who has depleted all of his strength. Before the Thunder Boss can even say anything, Vanquish hits him with a classic slap and blows his head off. He tells him that he is never going to leave this gate because he will die here. Inside him, Subaru can't believe that his body just did that. The boss regenerates, but Vanquish immediately hits him with a bloodshot. He then merges the blood and applies a curse on top of it. At the same time, he makes the blood spin in a vortex. This makes My Man Thunder turn into a modern abstract art piece. However, the boss isn't going to accept his defeat this easily. He tries hitting back and surprises Vanquish. As the two of them continue to fight, the boss gets shot by another round of blood. Subaru looks at all of this with a surprised expression and asks Vanquish if he is this strong from the beginning. My man Vanquish can't take this disrespect and tells him to stop underestimating him. Subaru asks him how he is able to damage such a strong opponent who can regenerate. He previously fought the cat boss, which had similar powers, and it wouldn't take any critical damage until its MP was completely depleted. Vanquish reveals that he is applying a curse on the blood before he shoots it. This allows his attacks to hit the target in their soul and not their body. It is efficient against enemies with strong regenerative abilities. The Thunder boss is getting more frustrated now. Subaru asks Vanquish why the boss hates him so much. He reveals that he killed him in the underworld and trapped him behind the gate. Vanquish puts his focus back on the boss and says that he is getting serious. As the two of them start fighting again, it is apparent who is the winner. The Thunder boss stands no chance in the fight and gets continuously bombarded with pressurized blood. He complains that he isn't at full strength. Hearing this, Vanquish tells him that he has always relied on his power no matter where he was. This is why warriors like them never reach their true potential. If he had killed the MC quickly, he wouldn't have to deal with him. He lost the moment Subaru was able to open the door. The kid was prepared to use more than his full strength to achieve victory. Before the boss can say anything, Vanquish blasts him into pieces. He turns towards Subaru and tells him that he needs to get more serious about all of this. Subaru stands frozen in shock, his mouth open as he watches the events unfold. He stands beside Vanquish, who calmly folds his arms into his sleeves and observes the scene with a confident smile. Subaru glances at Vanquish, amazed by how effortlessly he defeated the Thunder boss. He wonders who this powerful figure really is, realizing he has never questioned Vanquish's existence in this strange world. Suddenly, the system window updates. The message announcing the boss's defeat is replaced with a notification that the boss has revived. Subaru's surprise turns to alarm. He spreads his arms in disbelief and calls out to Vanquish. But Vanquish only grins and tells him not to panic. He explains that this is just the Thunder Killem's leftover power. The boss used Storm Parousia, level 5, a skill unique to weather deities. It restores 5% of their maximum HP and revives them, but it can only be used once every 240 days. The Thunder boss, now crackling with lightning, leans forward and lets out an enraged scream. Vanquish doesn't flinch. With a simple flick of his fingers, he forces the boss to the ground, ordering him to topple over. The boss raises his head, growling furiously, his face twisted in anger. Subaru watches, stunned. He didn't know such resurrection skills existed. Vanquish explains that these bosses have powerful souls, but their revived forms often lose control of their senses as a side effect. Subaru feels a chill of fear. He realizes the Thunder Killem is only defeated because of Vanquish's presence. Facing the boss, even in this weakened state, seems impossible without him. His thoughts drift to Hirasaka, who is likely battling a similarly formidable opponent. Interrupting Subaru's thoughts, Vanquish speaks up, reminding him of the trial. Raising a finger, Vanquish declares that Subaru's challenge is to defeat the revived Thunder Killem. Subaru's expression shifts to disbelief. Vanquish warns him that if he fails, he is of no use. He also makes it clear that he won't intervene, even if Subaru is in danger. He tells him that he needs to ignite his hatred. Subaru, confused, responds that he has no reason to hate the Thunder boss. What Vanquish means is that people who want to achieve something always have something they hate. For most of them, it's their own self. Subaru is still confused by his words. He explains that it may be because he was treated as an insect by people around him. For this reason, somewhere deep, he hated himself for being so weak. This is also why he doesn't mind throwing away his life for others. Vanquish tells him that this mindset is wrong. He says that he shouldn't blame himself for being weak but hate his weakness. Hatred is not for him to stay in the past but to strengthen him to move into the future. All of this makes our boy a bit emotional, and tears start rolling down his eyes. He grabs his divine chisel and starts moving towards the boss. Vanquish tells him that if he can ignite his hatred and become stronger, he can start loving himself someday and be truly happy. My man casually spitting words of wisdom in the middle of a fight. Due to his level up, he received a new skill called the Curse Blood. It consumed mana to apply a curse to blood mold, which caused it to deal damage to the enemy's soul and not their body. Subaru walks towards the boss with a cold expression and apologizes for making him wait. As the Thunder Killem arrogantly laughs, Subaru charges his blade and prepares to end it all. At the same time, the Storm boss is having a hard time against our boy Hirasaka. As he tries to run away, the top rank binds him by his second spell and holds him in place. He has been using his Imperial Radiance skill, which consumes a lot of mana. He only has 48 seconds to finish this fight. He knows that he has to end it now and uses the Flying Dragon Slash. It is so strong that it splits the boss in half. The Storm boss realizes that the player is getting stronger and stronger. As he regenerates, Hirasaka uses his Giant Beastbreaker attacks and cuts him in half again. He continues to overpower him with more and more attacks until the Storm boss can't regenerate fast enough. Hirasaka's 7th skill allows him to use the techniques of well-known commanders who studied under Ludwig. As he defeats the boss, he falls to the ground since he is so exhausted. He almost ran out of mana and health during this fight. As he looks for Subaru, he notices the rainbow door in the distance. Suddenly he gets a notification that the boss has been revived. This makes him think that he has let his guard down. The boss charges at him at full speed while Hirasaka is still on the ground. Before he can reach him, Subaru shows up with a rainbow glow around him. He punches the boss using his curse blow and destroys him completely. He has leveled up to 45. When Vanquish defeated the previous boss, he was inside Subaru's body, so it was counted as his own kill. He didn't get any XP for the second boss since he only dealt the finishing blow. Hirasaka raises his hand to his left eye, which darkens briefly as a notification pops up. His level increases from 84 to 85. When he lowers his hand, his eye returns to normal. Subaru smiles faintly as the two stand amidst the battle-scarred ground. Hirasaka thanks him and admits it was a dangerous fight. He smiles with his eyes closed, expressing gratitude for saving his life. Hirasaka then notices that Subaru's level hasn't increased. Subaru sheepishly explains it's because he only contributed the last 5% of the fight, and gate rules state no experience points are awarded if the damage dealt is less than 20%. Renji wonders how he didn't know about this. Subaru calls out loudly to Saya and Sushi. Hearing his voice, she pops her head from the palace. On the roof, Saya and Sushi peek out, looking surprised. Saya smiles, while the cat on her shoulder yawns. She expresses relief that Subaru is safe. He thanks her and says that it's finally over. The group finally decides to leave the gate. The heroes enter a room together. Inside, 3 people look at them. One of them is Udo. With him he has the #1 healer in Japan named Hishizaki Ryuji. Udo reveals that Subaru set a new record by clearing a 5-star difficulty in 22 minutes. The healer thanks Hirasaka for his hard work. We learn that he is the little brother of Kusaka who is leading the reconnaissance department. Due to them being attacked, the entire department has been withdrawn. Hirasaka notices another guy in the room with his face badly beaten. He asks who it is. Udo explains that it's Kei, a former bronze rank now working under Tiga. Kei angrily denies being anyone's subordinate and challenges them to a fight. Udo reveals he received an anonymous tip. When he rushed over and approached him, he started attacking him, which led to his arrest. He waves his book, further angering Kei, who grits his teeth and glares furiously as he mentions interrogating him about the Black Faction. Udo then turns to Subaru and asks him about the 5-star gate. Subaru smiles shyly. Hirasaka answers instead, admitting he thought they wouldn't survive. Udo picks Kei up like a child and prepares to put him in the car. He tells them to just put all the details in their report and to take a day off. Hirasaka tries to slip away quietly with a grin, ready to accept an offer, but someone grabs his collar from behind. Udo pulls him into the car, telling him that Shikishima needs him. Saying goodbye, Hirasaka assures them they'll meet again. Subaru and Saya wave to the group. Even the cat on Saya's shoulder waves its paw. Saya turns to Subaru and calls him out. However, he mindlessly glances to his right and says that he has figured out how to meet Sayaka. Subaru and Saya sit on the roof of a tall building looking at the system screen in front of them. The description mentions the ability to replace a soul, but it only works when the original soul is restored to a vital state. Saya places her hand on her chest and wonders if Sayaka's soul still resides in her body. Subaru smiles, confirming it seems that way. She reflects on her recovery, thinking her body is slowly regaining strength. Subaru reassures her that it's only a matter of time before Sayaka returns. Saya agrees with a white smile. Suddenly, Subaru cheers loudly, raising his fists in excitement. The vampire looks at him, startled. He leaps into the air, celebrating joyfully with the cat clinging to his back. Saya joins him in the air, flapping her leathery wings. She claps and bows slightly, congratulating him. Finally, Subaru and the cat land on a large red inflatable cushion on the roof that he made from blood. The impact sends them bouncing up and back onto the roof. Bro is having too much fun. Saya asks him what reward he received for completing the 5-star mission. Subaru tells her that he almost forgot. He reveals that he got 2 items at the price. One of them was given to him by Hirasaka from the other boss. He has 2 earrings. One is a red thunder earring, which adds electric shocks to attacks, and the other is a blue storm earring, which enhances movements with wind power. To her surprise, Subaru hands the earrings to her. She stares silently at them before bursting into a loud protest. Subaru calmly explains that she needs protection because he isn't strong enough to ensure her safety yet. Embarrassed, Saya thanks him and hesitantly puts on the earrings. As she fastens them, she shyly asks how she looks. Subaru smiles warmly, saying the earrings suit her perfectly. Overwhelmed, she blushes deeply and suddenly rockets into the sky. Surprised, Subaru shouts for her, asking how far up she will go. The cat on his shoulder stays silent until it unexpectedly smacks him on the cheek with a paw, sending his head to the side. Shocked, Subaru asks why, but the cat simply turns away and walks off without answering. Typical cat behavior. Away from all of this, Subaru's father and Tagia's stepfather relaxes inside with a glass of champagne, wondering where his foolish sons are. A woman sits nearby holding a phone and calls out for him not to stand by the large window wearing just a robe. Her name is Keiko and is Taiga's biological mom and Subaru's stepmom. She is on the phone ordering necklaces. Meanwhile, the dad opens the fridge, thinking how surprising it is that Subaru has become both a player and a guardian. He believes it's in their blood and holds his champagne, confident that soon they'll get even more money. Suddenly, the loud sound of someone entering interrupts him. Standing at the door is Tiga. Irritated, the dad asks who he is and how he got the key. Tiga stretches a clawed hand toward him, killing him instantly, calling him unsightly. The mom, without looking, asks her husband to pour her a glass of champagne since the housekeeper is gone. She finally turns and notices Tiga holding a wine glass in his clawed hand. She freezes, staring at him. She is confused at first, but she turns back to her phone once she realizes that it's Tiga. Tiga's sinister gaze meets hers as he calmly tells her that he is back home. He is a bit surprised that she was able to recognize him even with this appearance. She tells him that she is his mother and questions what happened to him. As he is about to respond, she interrupts him. Ignoring him, she smiles and shows off a necklace on her phone, telling him that she got 5 items for 20 million. Tiga's expression darkens as smoke surrounds him. He tells her that she is definitely his mother since she doesn't even care when he has changed so much. Fear grows in her as he thanks her sarcastically for making him come back. He tells her he should never have been born. He drops his glass, watching it shatter, and declares that the world, and he himself, are worthless. As the darkness grows, he says that all of them have to disappear together for this very reason. The next day, the news reports confirm the deaths of the couple. Their death is said to be due to the building collapsing, and their bodies have been said to be severely injured. Subaru watches the TV in shock, recognizing it's his father. 2 bodies lie near the wreckage while investigators inspect the scene. Subaru, frozen, stares at the rubble. Hirasaka is also on the scene. He asks his partner Udo about the dead. He frowns at a photo on his tablet and tells him that the wounds are similar to the ones on Kinokawa. He knows that this is probably done by Tiga. However, he still can't believe that he killed both of his parents. Hirasaka glances at Subaru, standing silent and still. Shikishima gently asks Subaru if he's okay. Without turning, he admits he feels no grief for his father, though he is sad he cannot mourn. Kneeling, he touches the sign, wondering what Tiga is thinking and where his brother might be. Meanwhile, Tiga stands outside the tall building of the Players' Federation. He walks up the stairs, overhearing whispers about him, some calling him the Demon King. Inside the Player Federation headquarters, a smiling receptionist greets him, but darkness swirls around him. The darkness spreads, filling the room as panic sets in. Screams echo while Tiga silently dominates the space. Elsewhere, a magician performs in a square, transforming a cane into a bouquet of flowers and releasing doves, delighting the crowd. He announces his next act to make the stick disappear. The magician finishes his trick with a smile, spreading his arms as the crowd cheers. Suddenly, a dark force destroys the entire association building behind him. He turns to the sound, and the onlookers gasp in horror as debris crashes down. Amid the chaos, Tiga rises from the wreckage, surrounded by darkness, with glass and stones falling around him. Though he has gained immense power, wisdom, and beauty, he feels an emptiness inside. He gazes downward, wondering about the purpose of life, and if his brother has found a reason to live. Meanwhile, a white limousine speeds down a road. Inside are the gold ranks who are headed at the scene. Udo sits with his arms crossed, frowning, while Hirasaki hangs his head in silence, glowing faintly. Shikishima, visibly tense, shouts orders over the phone, instructing his team to protect the celestial clock and avoid staying in one location for too long. Udo says that Tiga got him since he successfully distracted them with his parents' death and attacked the headquarters. He asks Shikishima about the casualties, and he tells him that at least 150 players were killed and countless others were injured in the attack. Shikishima curses under his breath, overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation. When his phone rings, he hesitates before answering. The unfamiliar voice introduces himself as Kiryu Issei, a member of the Dark Faction, and casually asks how they feel about the declaration of war. Flames flare around Hirasaki as anger fills the car. Shikishima demands to know their intentions, and Kiryu reveals that 6 more locations will face similar attacks. He also reveals that Tiga is in one of those locations and wishes them good luck in finding him. Infuriated, Hirasaka steps out of the limousine with his sword in hand. "My man is ready to cut anything in sight." Udo protests, but ultimately lets him go since they can't afford any more casualties. Shikishima calls out to Kiryu and asks him if he is the same guy who was watching them at the school. As the guy confirms it, Shikishima threatens to fill his body with holes once he meets him. The man ends the call by saying that he will be looking forward to that. The call ends abruptly, leaving the gold players scrambling to uncover the 6 targets. Shikishima connects the dots, realizing the enemy's goal is to destroy the celestial clock. He remembers when Kokugaiji talked about breaking the sky clock. Tiga's ability is also time acceleration, so their plan is probably to accelerate the time of the door. This will reduce the sky clock to 0 as a penalty for failing to clear the gate. The most efficient door for them to pick at the moment would be a 5-star gate with a large amount of time remaining. Shikishima reveals that the celestial clock currently shows 870 days, 6 hours, 22 minutes, and 17 seconds left. Destroying just 3 of those doors would be enough to turn the tide in favor of the dark faction. Shikishima frowns as he decides to send people to defend all 5 doors. He orders them to inform the top ranks as soon as they discover an enemy. On the street, a group of players listens intently to his instructions over the phone. Only the strongest players are deemed fit to fight, with gold players specifically tasked with confronting Tiga. The war has officially begun. On the top floor of the Shibuya 106 building, a gray-haired man from the dark faction sips coffee while holding a phone. Himeno Yumeno from the same group balances her phone on her shoulder and questions why they don't just perform a surprise attack on all 6 locations. Araya Kuhei on the other end of the call dismisses the idea and tells her that it would be too boring. Yumeno asks about Yatsurugi's condition and if he got crushed along with the headquarters. The guy tells her that he seems to have escaped. He has also heard that he is aiming for Subaru in accordance with Kiryu's orders. Subaru sits on a rooftop with sushi as he gets approached by 3 men from the black faction. He frowns as Kuruki Taichi casually blows a bubblegum bubble, and Kaga Shingo glares in anger. The third guy takes out his blade and tells him that he has no grudge against him, but he still has to die. Subaru gets up and puts on his blood armor. He tells them that he has heard everything from Shikishima, so he can't let any of them run loose. He also holds no grudges towards them, but he also has to beat them. Subaru tells them that he will make them spit out the location of Tiga. The men taunt Subaru, one asking if they're allowed to attack together. Subaru remains calm, watching his opponents. The buzzcut guy acts a bit tough and says that he will embarrass him. Shingo, filled with quiet rage, yells that Subaru couldn't possibly defeat even one of them, let alone all 3. A strange monster resembling a Halloween pumpkin appears in front of Subaru. It comments on Subaru's armor, suggesting their abilities are similar. The monster leaps toward the MC, shouting for him to prepare. Subaru stomps his foot, releasing a burst of red energy that strikes the monster. The impact shatters Shingo's purple armor, sending pieces flying. Blood spurts from Shingo's mouth as he screams in agony, confused about how he managed to overpower him. His move destroyed the armor from within by pouring blood into its cracks. As Shingo collapses, he can't help but wonder what just happened to him. Kei watches Subaru with wary eyes, realizing the terrifying precision of his attack. He knows that he has gotten stronger. He smiles ominously as he challenges him to a fight. He launches himself toward Subaru, who remains kneeling in a defensive stance. As Kei swings his twin swords, each strike releases waves of energy that leave deep cracks in the rooftop. Subaru watches intently, noticing the ground deteriorating unnaturally. He deduces that Kei has infused black smoke into his blades and recognizes the danger of taking a direct hit. Nearby, Taichi observes the battle from a distance with a smirk. He casually suggests staying out of the fight, and Kei encourages him to watch since he is confident in his own abilities. Subaru asks him why he is so fixated on a one-on-one match. He asks them what they really want. Ignoring the question, Kei leaps into the air and attacks. Subaru raises a shield to block the strike, deflecting the energy-filled blow that bursts into the surrounding air. Kei explains that they have been friends since they were kids. He is the gang's leader while Shingo is his underling. Taichi always watches them from a distance. In other words, this is just the norm for them. As Kei lands another strike, Subaru narrowly evades and presses for answers, asking him about his affiliation with the Black Faction and their mission to destroy the celestial clock. Kei, still smirking, denies any grand purpose, stating that his only goal is to become stronger. He declares that his ambition to defeat the strongest players drives his every action, even if it means opposing the heroes. My man joined a terrorist group just to defeat the strongest player. Subaru can't possibly understand, but Kei thinks that he is a Yankee from a manga. This is a bit too much for Subaru to process. He questions whether this dream was worth attacking innocent people like Miss Kusaka. Hearing this, Kei shows confusion, and it seems like he doesn't know who she is. Subaru explains that he is talking about the 3 people they met in front of the 5-star gate. Hearing this, the guy tells him that it was their own fault since they stepped out of the front lines because they were weak. The dismissive remark fuels Subaru's anger, and he punches Kei squarely in the face, sending him flying. As he gets up, he is shocked to see that the MC has become even faster than when he defeated Shingo. Subaru glares at him and accuses him of harming those who risk their lives to protect others. He expresses disgust at Kei's selfish ambition, declaring that such a dream is not worth the cost of innocent lives. A status window materializes, displaying Subaru's conditional skill, which significantly enhances his abilities through his hatred. Kei is clearly shaken by all of this, but he still raises his sword in defiance. He shouts for Subaru to stop interfering with his dream. Subaru, however, clenches his fist and casts a curse, preparing for the next attack. Before either can act, Taichi intervenes. Wearing slippers, he casually steps forward and kicks Kei in the back, abruptly halting the fight. Kei stumbles and falls down to the ground. Taichi tells him to accept the loss, and says that the three of them can try their best next time. Subaru looks at him and asks if he is going to be his next opponent. Taichi shocks him by refusing to fight. He reveals that he has been their childhood friend, but he also has a different identity, which is Shikishima's subordinate. He is the spy who was sent to join the Black Faction. He says that he came here to tell him the location of the 6 gates. As he tells him about all the gates, he says that the battle has already begun. At the same time, Shikishima stumbles upon Tiga at one of the gates. He was hoping to find the guy in the glasses, but he accidentally stumbled upon something better. Tiga finally looks back and tells him that he will be the first one to die. After hearing Tiga's words, Shikishima asks him if he is talking about the prophecy of his door owner, who said that he would kill all of the top gold rankers. Shikishima tells him not to underestimate him. He uses his 5/8 skill and rains down sulfur rain on the opponent. Tiga doesn't look intimidated. He stares back coldly and tells him that the boss battle has just begun. As he continues to dodge his attack, he thinks back to the time 3 years ago when Shikishima was suspicious of him. He told him that he was leveling up too slowly. The owner of the door that he stole from Subaru was Galea the battering ram. He refused to cooperate with him, and even when he exceeded level 20 when the second door usually appears, nothing happened. During their meeting, the gold rankers thought that his door would appear at level 25 as it happened with some players. However, Shikishima still had the suspicion that he had stolen the door from someone else. Tiga could hear all of this while sitting outside the meeting room. The gold rankers still didn't have any proof against him, so he decided to keep quiet. Just as he was feeling safe, Shikishima said that he knew someone who had the skill to expose lies. This made Tiga panic, and he started cursing Shikishima for taking away his safety like this. He decided to kill him someday. Back in the current day, he was standing in front of him with a completely different form and strength. He knew his intent to kill him was foolish and childish, but he still wanted to fulfill it. He has already exploited Galea's power using the skill he obtained from Kokugaiji. Tiga covered himself in thick purple smoke and charged at him with a powerful punch. Shikishima knew that he was fast, but he could still see him. As he came closer, he told him not to underestimate him and activated his third skill. This surrounded him with a blue glow and caused an explosion around him. Tiga was quick to react, so he escaped after using his teleportation skill. Shikishima realized that he could only teleport within the smoke's range. He told him that his strength was comparable to a level 50 gold rank player. Shikishima himself was at level 82, so Tiga stood no chance against him. Tiga let out a huge sigh as the city began to shake with huge sounds of explosions. As Shikishima looked back with a confused expression, he explained that they already knew gold rank players would go after the 5-star gates. This is why he advanced the time of all 4-star gates to the very last minute. Now there were around 200 underworld creatures that were set loose in the city. They had already lost a huge number of their players because of this attack. With the creatures wreaking havoc in the background, Tiga asked him how he planned on stopping this. Shikishima couldn't believe that he would do such a thing, and asked if the person he was fighting was actually Tiga. He told him that his soul and consciousness coexists with Tiga, but the real him is dead. Everything he once desired is useless to him now, and only one wish of Tiga remains in his head. He wants to take revenge against the world that didn't love him. When looking at Tiga before, Shikishima could feel his pride, envy, and the desire for recognition, but he couldn't feel any of this from the Tiga in front of him. This made him wonder if he actually had a plan to get rid of the gold ranks. He thinks to himself whether Tiga really hated himself so much that he wanted to become a different person. No matter what the reason is, he can't let him continue on this path. He prepares to end it all and uses his 6th skill, Moth to a Flame. Bro has been listening to The Weeknd. Both of them charged at each other with Tiga covered in his purple smoke and Shikishima surrounded by a blue glow. Elsewhere, Kiryu notices the blue glow and figures out that Shikishima is probably fighting Tiga at the moment. He turns back towards Hirasaka and says that he will be his opponent. My man Hirasaka hits him with a death stare and asks him to surrender while he is still asking nicely. The guy fixes his glasses and tells him that he has his own reasons, so he is going to fight. The scene shifts back to an hour earlier, showing Kiryu talking to his child. He tells the boy that he's going out and advises him to be a good boy and listen to his mother. The boy's mother asks him to return soon, and he assures her he'll be back for dinner. After he leaves, a purple door appears, and both his wife and child begin to disintegrate. They were merely illusions created by the Kokugaji. He orders Kiryu to kill anyone who gets in their way, and we move back to the fight. Kiryu knows that 3 gold-ranked players, including Hirasaka, are currently active, while the rest are occupied elsewhere. He sees this as the perfect opportunity to challenge him. The top gold-ranked player wastes no time and charges at the man. The man, wearing glasses, stands calmly with his weapon in hand and remarks that Hirasaka is the most manageable prey for him. As Hirasaka approaches, the man uses a skill that can divide any space and pierce through physical defenses. Struck by the attack, Hirasaka realizes that this opponent is strong. Though he doesn't fully understand the skill, he notices it's similar to his own warp edge ability. This means he'll need to attack faster before the man can swing his weapon. However, Hirasaka isn't great at devising strategies. As he charges forward, he triggers a spell that causes him to freeze. Surprised, he realizes the man is using a marking skill, an invisible trap that activates upon contact. This is one of Kiryu's abilities. He has set similar traps throughout the area. Despite knowing this, Hirasaka recklessly charges again, only to be marked by the skill once more and brought down. Kiryu knows Hirasaka is overly confident in his abilities and will likely attempt a frontal assault. While Kiryu's attacks don't significantly reduce Hirasaka's health, his primary goal is to keep him pinned down until reinforcements arrive. That for now is good enough. He can even try cutting him up while he is frozen. Hirasaka immediately tries to use his cord edge attack, but the invisible marks are blocking his every move. Still, Kiryu can feel the overwhelming strength from his attacks even though they can't reach him. Hirasaka gets furious and asks him why he chose to use his abilities to hurt people when he could have used them to save the world. Kiryu shocks him by asking him the same question. He asks him why he is protecting the world, and what is making him so angry. He questions if his anger should really be directed towards him. The guy gets mad and says that he has lost something precious in his life, and so the value of this world is nothing in his mind. He screams at him and asks if he is the one who is crazy. Before Hirasaka can answer, he gets slashed by his hammer. He manages to block the attack with his sword, but he doesn't move. Kiryu asks him if he really thinks he can negotiate with him. Hirasaka feels bad for him since he lost his wife and kid. The guy who killed him was a player and a minor, which made it hard to convict him. In his desperate state, Kokugaiji appeared before him and suggested him a way out. He asked for his help, and in return promised to bring back his family. Kiryu accepted his offer and joined him. As he continues hitting Hirasaka, he asks him if he is just planning to get cut while standing like that. The guy screams at him saying that he will kill him and his comrades. The gold rank starts crying as he thinks of his friends and slashes him off using his warp edge skill. Hirasaka doesn't realize why he feels uneasy after slashing Kiryu. The man laughs at him, revealing that he has finally used his 6th skill, which consumes 80% of his mana. Kiryu smirks, satisfied that he has reduced both Hirasaka's health and mana. Bleeding heavily, Kiryu declares that he has fulfilled his mission. With a weak voice, he asks Hirasaka why he is crying. Hirasaka, unsure himself, admits that when fighting an opponent, he can feel their emotions gradually flow into him. He explains that he's crying because every time Kiryu struck him, he felt an overwhelming sorrow pouring out of him. Hirasaka tells Kiryu that, just as he said earlier, he isn't fighting for the sake of the world. Instead, he fights to protect his friends and to stay with them for as long as possible. He reassures Kiryu that he isn't crazy and acknowledges that everyone has their reasons for fighting. However, he emphasizes that this is precisely why he cannot give up. Hearing this, Kiryu laughs and finally accepts his defeat. In his final moments, he reflects on how he couldn't resist Kokugaiji's tempting offer. All he wanted was to bring his family back, no matter the cost. Hirasaka, furious, blames Kokugaiji for exploiting people's weaknesses and manipulating them. Kokugaiji receives news of Kiryu's death and laughs, unconcerned. He remarks that it doesn't matter since Hirasaka is already out of mana. He destroys the doll family he had created for Kiryu and praises them for serving their purpose. Meanwhile, the Black Faction targets gold-ranked players by scattering 19 of their members, including Tiga, across different locations. Elsewhere, Taichi stands with Subaru, explaining the situation. They face a girl who can transform into a powerful beast. Using her ability, she transforms into a massive cat and prepares to attack. Before she can strike, Sushi takes her down with precision. After the fight, Subaru contacts Saya and asks if she's okay. Saya reports that she has completely destroyed her opponent, and confirms that the southern area of Shibuya is nearly cleared. Her mission is to eliminate the underworld creatures in the city. Subaru tells her to meet him immediately, and they end the call. Moments later, Saya feels a strange sensation in her chest. At the same time, in another location, Sayaka's sisters battle a level 54 silver-ranked player from the Black Faction. The elder sister, Huzuki, uses her Strength of a Dragon skill, which allows her to unleash the power of a Dragon King. This ability temporarily boosts her attack power by 500%. However, her attacks seem to miss her even though she was standing directly in its path. At the same time, the younger sister Mizuho tries to hit Yumeno with her Grim Reaper skill, which reduces the health of the enemy by 50% if it is on target. Before the sickle can hit her, Yumeno uses her Blink skill, which allows her to disappear from the world for a few seconds. She can also use her other spells or attack during blinking if she uses it for mana. By using this spell, she easily dodges both of the sisters' attacks while hitting them at the same time. As Huzuki gets attacked, she realizes that not only Yumeno's disappearance time is random, but she can also attack as soon as she shows up. This allows her to evade and attack at the same time. Despite trying everything, she stands no chance in front of her and gets beaten to the ground. Yumeno laughs as she asks them if they are both the Sayaka siblings. She says that the bigger sister has a better style than her, and the little sister is much cuter. Both of the sisters are strong and have a lot of followers on social media. The girl can't contain her excitement since she managed to overwhelm the girls she was jealous of. She doesn't care what harm it does to others, as long as she can feel this happiness. Listening to her, the sisters realize that she is rotten to the core. Subaru had contacted them earlier, claiming that he found a way to bring Sayaka back to life. He told them that it may take some time, but he will bring her back to them. Both of the sisters furiously stared at Yumeno as they told her they wouldn't let them destroy the world where their sister was coming back to. Hearing her name, the girl says that she heard their third sister was a failure. While she is busy talking crap about their sister, Saya shows up behind her. With a cold gaze, she talks to Sayaka and allows her to switch souls for 3 minutes. As their souls switch, all of the experience gained by Saya is added to Sayaka's level. She turns back to normal and immediately hits Yumeno with a corpse fist attack. It doesn't take long for her to beat the crap out of that girl. The two sisters emotionally call out to her. She smiles and asks them to leave it all to her since she is trained. Sayaka is glad to be finally able to feel the ground below her feet and protect the people she loves. However, as she stares at their bruised faces, she gets furious at Yumeno once again. The girl has her teeth falling out after getting hit by a single punch. As she tries to scream, she gets hit again. Sayaka prepares for another attack and says that she is going to show her the results of her training. She is connected to Subaru through a chain of souls. Yumeno has no time to defend herself as she constantly gets punched by Sayaka. Moreover, the punches aren't ordinary. She can feel an electric shock and a sudden impact vibrating inside her body every time she is hit. She knows that she is going to die if she doesn't try to escape right now. As Yumeno tries to use Blink to get out, she sees a system notification telling her that there are too many impurities in the surrounding area, which means that her skill won't work. Sayaka used her blood to create a red smoke, disabling the girl's Blink ability. With nowhere left to go, the girl tries to fight back, but she immediately gets put down by another brutal punch. The two sisters stare at her with shocked expressions, since her martial arts skills are higher than theirs. It feels like they are watching their big sister. When Sayaka was at level 19, her sister told her that she wanted her to stop participating in quests for a while. They felt like she was holding them back in quests since her level was low. Sayaka got mad hearing this, and told them that she would just get stronger on her own and wouldn't come back to them even if they begged. After she left home, one of the sisters heard a rumor that her level had decreased to 8 because of a boss who drained her levels. Both the sisters felt bad for her, but they knew that she wasn't the one to give up. They were certain that she would come back once she was stronger. Hazuki turned to the younger sister and said that she was right. She asked her to support Sayaka together. Hearing both of her sisters cheer for her, Sayaka smiled as this gave her even more motivation to beat the girl. Yumeno didn't like this at all. She couldn't accept that their relationship was so different than her and her sister. She then starts yapping about her backstory, which is just her being jealous of her sister since she got more likes on her tweets. This is why she decided to enter the purple door and kill her sister. After that, she started killing everyone who she thought was above her. However, this time she had to face reality as Sayaka punched her back to oblivion. As she continues hitting her, she accidentally punches her out of the fog. Yumeno knows that this is her chance, so she activates the Blink ability and goes after the younger sister. However, before she can hit her, Sayaka protects her using her blood shield. She starts to cry as she wonders why the world won't just bend to her will. After that, she tries to fight again with the final bit of rage she has left, but it's all over since she gets put down pretty quickly. Sayaka tells her that she didn't hear any words she said, but she won't let her touch her family. After that, she delivers the final blow, and Yumeno goes down with a blast. After the smoke clears from the blast, Sayaka stands there without a scratch on her body. She even saved her sisters by creating a blood shield around them. Hazuki remembers how she told her that she would get stronger on her own and prove that she could become useful. She starts crying as she realizes that her words have become true. Sayaka excitedly calls them out and tells them that she has won. However, she suddenly starts coughing out blood. Saya tells her that she doesn't have much time left and that their souls need to switch back. Sayaka is a bit sad, but she knows that she has to go. She apologizes to her sisters and says that she has to sleep for a little while again. As the sisters say their goodbyes and the girl prepares to switch, we see Subaru flying towards her at full speed. He wants to meet her even if it's for a second, since he wants to thank her and apologize for involving him in the quest. He also wants to get stronger with her. Sayaka starts crying as she feels that she should be the one thanking him and apologizing for dying in that quest. She promises to grow stronger with him no matter where they are. She then thanks Saya for taking care of her body and asks her for a favor. They finally switch souls and Saya wakes up in the girl's body. Subaru asks her about Sayaka and she tells her that she has switched again to not worsen the wound. She only came out for a short time to help her family. Moreover, she also entrusted her with a message. Sayaka told her that she would be waiting for him at the red table. She opens the red door to be greeted by the ghoul King Carrion, who tells her that he saw everything. She asks him how she did, and he gives her 13 points, which makes her mad. The Thunder and Storm bosses are also listening to this, and they mock Carrion for being strict. They both evaluate her on their own terms, but she is still not satisfied. Carrion then asks her to continue their training as they both walk towards the red table. Meanwhile, Subaru is confused about the red table and looks at Saya, who appears to be even more clueless. At the same time, he notices Hazuki walking towards him with a terrifying expression. He gets scared for a second, but as she gets close, she breaks down in tears and thanks him for letting them see their sister. This makes him emotional and he starts crying with the sisters. The younger sister tells him that they are going to wipe out the underworld creatures in the city and asks him to blow them all away. Subaru stands there as he remembers what Vanquish told him. He still didn't know what made him happy, and the world was becoming an awful place with every passing day. However, he knew that if he could truly become happy, he would want to stay with all of his friends. Saya smiles as she hears this and promises to accompany him wherever he goes and as long as her soul remains in this body. She is leveled up and can now use Sayaka's mana to use her abilities. Subaru looks up at the sky and tells her that they should keep moving. Away from them, Shikishima and Tiga are still fighting. The gold player tries to hit him with a blast, but he teleports behind him and tries to attack. He knows that his skill allows him to teleport anywhere in the smoke, but against him, it won't be useful. As soon as Tiga appears behind him, he gets blasted by a moth. This is Shikishima's 6th spell, which summons a flame moth that can track the target. The moth explodes upon making contact with the target, which also disperses Tiga's smoke. He finally realizes why Shikishima is the 2nd gold rank player. With no other option left, he thinks about using his trump card. While he is still thinking, he hears Hirasaka using his Imperial Radiance. It has only been 15 minutes since the two of them started fighting and the top gold player has already arrived. Hirasaka met Shikishima 8 years ago when they were just starting as gold rank players. He came to ask him for help since his laptop kept lighting on fire whenever he touched it. That day, Shikishima realized that the top rank player was not the smartest. Back to the present, Hirasaka is standing in front of Tiga. His opponent is surprised how he was able to finish off Kiryu in such a short amount of time and reach him. However, even when faced by two of the top gold rankers, he is confident that he can take them both out. He chants Porta Nigra and activates a spell that summons a black door in front of Shikishima. He tries to get away from it, but several arms reach out from within the gate and try to pull him inside. As he is getting pulled, he realizes that he can't use any of his skills. Hirasaka sees this and realizes that things are bad. Tiga knows the weakness of the gold ranks. Each of them has such strong abilities that they risk involving each other if they go all out in a fight. Now the top gold rank has a difficult decision to make. He has to determine the fate of everyone around him in just a moment. He can either choose to kill Tiga and end the battle, or save his friend. Bro is not Gojo. Without wasting another second, Hirasaka uses his 7th skill and rushes to save his friend. He slashes through all the arms, pulling him inside the gate and setting him free. Before he can do anything else, he gets cut in half by one of Tiga's piercing attacks. With a smile on his face, he slowly falls down to the ground. He is glad that he could save his friend. My man took the Gojo cosplay too seriously. Shikishima screams for his fallen friend, but it's too late. He thinks back to the time when they just finished doing a 3-star quest. He was injured and tired, so Hirasaka came to help him stand up. He asked him if he was the one who finished the boss off. The top gold rank told him that he didn't really have any other talents besides his strength, and he couldn't have done it without his help. Their injuries fade as they level up, but Shikishima feels frustrated since the 3-star gate was much stronger than they expected. Hirasaka assures him that it will be alright since they will get stronger with time. However, it is still too risky for them to map out the entire gate before doing every quest. For this reason, Shikishima talks to 15-year-old Kinokawa and tells her that he is planning on making a dedicated team to map out the gates. This way they can reduce the number of players dying due to traps in the gates. He wanted to protect every single person who was working with him. Shikishima told her that when all of this is over someday, he would want every to laugh about it and finally disband. Unfortunately, for him, one of his friends laid lifeless in his own arms. As Tiga walks towards him, He tells him that humans can truly sacrifice themselves to protect the things they love. He congratulates him and says that Hirasaka really thought of him as a true friend. Shikishima is about to explode with rage. Everything inside of him is telling him to just kill Tiga in the place. He is still in the shock of his friend's death and can't believe that he gave his life away to protect him. During this time, Tiga approaches him and tries to finish him off, but he suddenly notices an attack aimed at him. He immediately teleports away to a rooftop. The guy who just attacked him is Subaru. Even after seeing Hirasaka in this state, he doesn't lose his composure. He simply tells Shikishima not to worry and assures him that he will bring Hirasaka back into this world using his Paravara skill. As soon as he uses that skill, Hirasaka's body starts to float while glowing green. Shikishima knows what is happening. He thinks back to the time when they were discussing the appearance of the rainbow door in their car. It was the first time such a door had ever appeared, and they also knew that Subaru had revived his friend after gaining an ability from that door. Shikishima wonders if this is also one of his skills. Paravara works by transforming the soul of the player. It converts the player into a kindred of the user. Since Subaru was at level 35, he could use this skill on 2 people at once. He apologizes to Shikishima saying that he can't bring Hirasaka back at the moment, but he promises that this will protect his body until he comes back. The gold player starts crying as he hears this and thanks Subaru. Hirasaka is now completely back in one piece and has gone completely feral. He starts laughing as he flies in the air, mentioning how good it feels to be back in the human world. Just by the way he laughs, Subaru knows that the soul inside Hirasaka's body belongs to Carrion. After being completely transformed, he looks like a different person. He introduces himself as the Ghoul King and announces that he will be Subaru's kindred from now on. After Carrion bullied Subaru through the door of trials the previous time, he managed to regain some of his original appearance due to the growth of Subaru. However, his current power isn't the same as it was during the trial. Tiga furiously looks at him and unleashes several doors around him. Carrion doesn't look the least bit worried seeing all of those hands. He knows they belong to the withered old woman. Carrion uses blood mold to conjure up a spiral of emerald blood around him and rains it down on the arms reaching out. He then uses a divine quake to reveal the location of the original door. Soon after noticing it, he takes out a huge scissor and slashes the creature from outside. The underworld creature gets cut in half by the sheer power of the attack. Subaru commends him for taking care of the creature, and he starts feeling a bit too confident. As the two of them stand, they notice Tiga approaching them. He looks at Carrion and tells him that he is his next target. Carrion gets annoyed and tells him that his real opponent has been standing in front of him all this time. Even though Subaru is in front of him, he hasn't confronted him once. Hearing his words, Tiga wonders if he is consciously avoiding a fight with him. He tries making up other excuses, but when he stares directly into his eyes, he can't avoid the truth. It's almost like their first meeting when they were kids. He still remembers the fear he felt that day. This makes him mad, and he challenges Subaru to a fight inside the door. Despite Shikishima's warning, Subaru accepts his challenge and starts following him. While entering the door, he remembers when Taichi asked him about what Tiga had done to him in the past. He wants to end it right here and now so he can move on from this. Kokugaiji commends Tiga for getting rid of Hirasaka and luring the possessor of Vanquish inside the door. He considers this a victory for the Black Faction. However, when he looks at Subaru, he is shocked to see him this calm. Tiga calls out to Kokugaiji and asks him not to interfere in their fight. The creature agrees, since this is the agreement they made in their contract. He tells him that he can go ahead and settle his affairs with him. Kokugaiji doesn't really care if Tiga can kill him or not, since he thinks that he can kill him afterward. Once he gets rid of the MC, all of his kindred would also vanish. Until now, everything is going according to his plan, and he is confident that he can take over the human world like this. Just as things were starting to look good, we saw a familiar face show up. Outside the gate, Carrion flies Shikishima away from the scene. The guy isn't really happy since he wants to help Subaru defeat Tiga. Carrion assures him that he is going to be fine since he has a strategy. This makes him a bit curious, but before he can ask him anything, he sees a red notification alerting them about a 5-star gate that has run out of time. While everyone was busy, Haji Miori from the Black Faction was targeting gates. Due to the penalty, 81 2 hours are deducted from the sky clock. This puts the timer to 2 days and 16 hours. Suddenly the sky begins to crack and the system starts glitching. Since the remaining time is below 100 hours, the system is having a problem maintaining itself. Something like this has never happened before. If even one more gate reaches 0, the entire world will come to an end. Shikishima starts to panic as he thinks about a way to solve this. Carrion Karate chops him in the head and asks him to take it easy. He tells him that he has to protect the things which Hirasaka cherishes. Shikishima gets even more annoyed and asks him to fly him to the hospital. When they reach the hospital, they find Kinakawa's bed empty. Shikishima starts to panic and wonders where she is. At the same time, Udu is fighting Araya Kohei, who is another member of the Black Faction. My man is getting cooked by the gold rank. He can't believe how a shield user can hit him so hard. Udo is simply using his shields to attack instead of defending. After taking down the player, he gets a call from Shikishima asking him where he is. He asks him if he knows about Kinakawa's location. Udo looks up and sees a girl fighting a massive dragon with golden arms and legs. He tells Shikishima that she is fighting in front of him. She couldn't calmly sit back while the entire sky was cracking. Shikishima asks Udo what their next move is. Udo states that they have only one choice now. If they want to save the world, they must speed run the gates and reclaim the time lost on the clock. With this in mind, they notify all the players and order them to attack doors at random. Shikishima then turns to Carrion and asks if Subaru will really be okay. The Ghoul King laughs and replies that if even he can't solve the problem, then he doesn't know who can. Meanwhile, Kokugaiji is dumbfounded upon seeing Vanquish inside the gate. Vanquish laughs and says that he got excited when he heard that there was a baby with a rotten nature inside this gate. Even my man Tiga is flustered. Subaru calls him out and asks him to look back at him. He explains that his blood skill and his smoke cancel each other out, so it's better for them to just fight without using any tricks. This is going to be their first and last sibling fight. Kokugaiji looks at Venkatesh in shock and demands to know how he appeared inside the door. Instead of answering, Vanquish turns to Subaru and commends him for doing a good job and providing the exact location. Kokugaiji, still confused, looks at Subaru and asks if he is the reason for the situation. Subaru remains silent, his cold expression unchanged. Kokugaiji's frustration boils over, and he orders Subaru to look at him. Vanquish steps in, telling Kokugaiji that he's the one who should be paying attention to him. Using curse blood, Vanquish restrains Kokugaiji and mocks him, calling him an irredeemable imbecile and a fool who overthinks everything. Kokugaiji's anger intensifies, and he defiantly asks Vanquish if he really believes he has already won. With wide eyes and a surge of determination, Kokugaiji declares that no immortal god, not even Vanquish, can defeat him in his own world. He chants a spell, causing smoke to envelop Vanquish. The smoke accelerates time for everything that it touches. Tiga watches silently from the sidelines, observing the scene unfold. He sees Kokugaiji trembling with fear and being impatient. It is hard for him to believe that Subaru is the one responsible for all this. His older brother used to be scared of him. As the two of them come face to face, he asks Subaru if he really plans on fighting without using any skills. He doesn't think that it is a fair conclusion for a battle of this size. Subaru starts tearing up and tells him that it doesn't matter how big or small the scale of their battle is, since he is his little brother. He tells him that he should have done this a long time ago. When he first met Tiga, he was reserved. Subaru now thinks that it was wrong of him. He should have scolded him for being wrong as the older brother. While looking down, Tiga reminds him that they are not related by blood, so he shouldn't act like his brother. Moreover, he doesn't want anything to do with him. As Tiga tries to attack him, Subaru dodges it and asks him if he really thinks he can run away from him. This shocks Tiga, as his weak big brother finally punches him in the face. He tries using the smoke, but Subaru disperses it using his blood mold skill. My man then starts styling on him and hits him with some freestyle dance moves. After getting kicked in the head, Tiga manages to land his first punch of the fight. The battle between them gets intense as both brothers throw punches at each other non-stop. Both of them are starting to get tired now. As the fight continues, Subaru lands a kick on his brother. Tiga grabs his leg and counterattacks but gets punched immediately after. It seems like none of them are holding back. At the same time, Kokugaiji and Vanquish are also fighting. Despite being completely enveloped in smoke, Vanquish laughs as he calls out to Kokugaiji. The underworld baby can't believe that his smoke didn't work. It should have advanced time by thousands of years by now. This makes him furious, and he unleashes his other ability, which also advances time for some reason. My man trying to age an immortal god, his ability allows him to advance time by millions of years. Unfortunately for him, it has no effect on Vanquish, who freezes him with the frostbite skill. He tells him that the time skill is useless to him since he is immortal. He looks at the baby with a disappointed expression and says that he could have come up with a better plan if he was smart enough. Vanquish mentions that he left his traces all over the place when he used those doors. He was able to narrow down his location using those doors. Moreover, Carrion used to be his kindred, so he was connected to him by soul. When Carrion transferred his soul into Hirasaka's body, he told Subaru about his plan and how he was going to crush him with a single blow. In the end, it was Subaru who helped him find the precise location of the underworld baby. Due to the conditions of the contract, he is able to survive in this place filled with amniotic fluid. After hearing the entire plan, Kokugaiji realizes that he has been played. Subaru knew that he couldn't kill him by himself, so he brought Vanquish with him. Using Tiga's hatred and his impatience, Subaru was able to turn the situation to his own advantage. Vanquish questions the Black Amniotic King about the person who put him on this task. He asks him if the entity offered to give him the human world in exchange for breaking the sky clock. Whatever the case, he won't go off easy after messing with his possessor. Vanquish uses the Rift Cleaver skill and lands some clean slashes on the baby. While in pain, Kokugaiji starts calling for Miss Safina and screams that Vanquish is going to kill him. As he begs her to save his life, a golden light appears inside the gate. A golden bell starts descending slowly. Vanquish already knows Safina and asks if she is the one behind it all. The underworld baby feels relieved after watching the golden bell, but instead of helping him, Safina crushes him between the bell's hands. She calls him a traitor and mentions that he attempted to outmaneuver them and monopolize the human world. She tells him that he will be put in the lowest gate. Kokugaiji starts crying and begs her to not put him in the lowest gate. However, it is all for nothing as she tosses him inside the gate with little regard for him. The evil baby finally vanishes in a 1-star gate. After he is gone, Safina greets Vanquish and tells him that it's been a long time. Vanquish laughs and says that she seems to be in good condition. He slashes the bell in half and says that he will be fighting her in person after he shows up. Safina tells him that she will be looking forward to it. Vanquish then turns to his possessor and wonders how he is going to settle this fight. He knows that players can touch each other's souls depending on their sensing ability. It means that as Subaru and Tiga fight each other, they will experience what the other is feeling. This is going to be a trial for the protagonist, and once he gets past this obstacle, he will truly be qualified to become his possessor. It seems like both Subaru and Tiga are equally matched in hand-to-hand combat. Tiga looks at his eyes and it makes him go back to the past. He remembers his mother hitting him because he ate the pudding she put in the fridge. She smacks him because he ate it without her permission and tells him that he is the same as his father. The mom had left him alone at home for 3 days and he had to survive on a single pudding. Eventually, Child Guidance Center found out about her abuse, but she began dodging it. She didn't even let them go inside the house. After they left, she went back to Tiga and asked him why he was even born. She then married Subaru's dad, who was the same as her. Tiga came to know that the guy had a son, and he got furious when he realized that he was going to get a big brother like that. In his mind, he thought he was also going to be miserable like him. But when he met Subaru, he saw a sparking light in his eyes. He couldn't believe how he was not broken after getting treated like him. He spent all of his childhood thinking that his behavior was the fault of others around him. But now that he had seen someone who was living the same life without complaints or despair, he couldn't stand it. He realized that the only insect was him. The two brothers watched an interview with Hirosaka when he mentioned that the doors appear to those who have pure souls. Tiga mocked his brother and told him that he was never getting a door. Just moments later, he saw a gold-rank door appearing right in front of him. He couldn't accept that at all, so he pushed his brother away. He was afraid of Subaru becoming happy, so he kept him close and made sure that he would never be satisfied with his life. He knew that if he allowed him to be happy, the gap between them would never be the same again. This is why he wants him to stay beneath him all of his life. After getting hit again, Subaru is surprised that Tiga still has this much strength left. With each punch, he can feel his emotions. He realizes why his brother became so twisted and afraid. Tiga tries to kick him and it breaks the entire bridge. As the two of them are falling down, Subaru flies toward him and kicks him as hard as he can. While hitting him, he thinks to himself why they couldn't prevent this sooner. Tiga can also feel Subaru's soul as he keeps getting attacked. He starts to see a bright light in front of him and wonders if this is his brother's heart. He was living the same life as him, but when he heard he was going to have a little brother, he showed a completely different reaction than Tiga. He even tried to stop the mom from hitting him. However, Tiga didn't see him as a brother and pushed him away from his life. He stands there as he watches the moment. He steals the door from his brother. He wonders what Subaru was thinking when that door appeared. As he reads his thoughts, he finds out that Subaru wanted to become a player so that he could protect his little brother. Even though he appears shocked, he had noticed it a long time ago. The only person who truly loved him in the entire world was his brother Tiga. He remembers another scene from his past when Subaru's dad was beating him over something that he was hiding. Tiga was a bit surprised to see him disobeying his dad. He called him an idiot and wondered what he was trying to hide. When his dad finally saw what he was hiding, he stopped hitting him and let him go. Subaru then walked over to Tiga that he got pudding for him since he liked it. This made him shocked and he wondered what was wrong with him. No matter what he tried, he couldn't win with his brother. As his body gets enveloped by a golden light, Tiga feels regretful that he couldn't live his life the way he wanted. Vanquish knows that this is the end for him since his body has reached its limits like all other underworld creatures. It was time for his soul to endlessly wander in the void since the blessing he received from Kokugaiji was also gone. Tiga looked at Subaru's face and asked him not to look at him that way since he wasn't in the wrong. He feared and admired him at the same time. Now that it was time for him to disappear, his last memories were of the pudding they shared together. He told Subaru that he would like to eat those puddings again someday. He couldn't thank him back then, but it made him happy. Hearing this makes Subaru tear up, and he can see his younger brother in front of him. As he tries to grab onto him, Tiga disappears into the void. Subaru cries his heart out thinking that his younger brother remembered the moment they ate together. He couldn't save his brother from his fate, and now he was feeling regretful. Vanquish walks over to him and tells him that the biggest misfortune for Tiga is being aware of his sins and still not doing anything to stop them. He hated himself for all the bad things he did, and it kept piling on and on with time. This ending was inevitable, ever since he stole his door. Subaru asks him if there is no other way. Vanquish becomes a therapist and tells him that it is for him to figure out for the rest of his life. He should take these memories to his deathbed and never forget them. Vanquish asks him to take as much time as he likes and says that he will wait for him. Bro casually being the best dad for Subaru. After defeating Tiga, Subaru gains some levels and items including the golden arm. It has been 3 hours since the crack appeared on the sky clock. Due to the efforts of all the players, they managed to clear 195 gates in those 3 hours. This pushed the clock's time to 417 days and deactivated emergency mode. Shikishima thanked all the players for their efforts and said that the crisis was over for now. All that was left was for Subaru to win his fight. The 3 gold players and Subaru's Kindred waited patiently for his return. Carrion assured them that he was alright since they were still there. Sayaka could feel that Subaru was hurt and wanted to check on him as soon as possible. A moment later they started hearing Vanquish screaming inside the door since Subaru slept while crying. He comes outside on Sushi's back while still unconscious. Everyone is happy to watch him safely come back. Even while sleeping, he is still smiling since he is dreaming of eating that pudding with his brother. A system notification appears about the update of the program. In this update, 6-star gates have been officially implemented. We see 2 members of the Black Faction sitting on a rooftop discussing Kokugaiji's death. The girl mentions that she got disconnected and the kill Kokugaiji gave her also disappeared. The guy asks her if she thinks it's all because of the rumored rainbow possessor. She replies that she's not sure, but since Kokugaiji is still a king, it's likely he was killed by Vanquish. This implies that the 3 kings are going to make their move. The girl tells him not to panic and notes that the sky clock just got an update. She suggests they stay there for the time being and see how things unfold. Meanwhile, someone apologizes to Ishizaki for coming all the way to treat him. Ishizaki reassures him, saying it's nothing. If he collapses now, it would spell the end for all of them. Using his power as a healer, he cures him, though he admits he can't restore Kinokawa's limbs. Shikishima tells him not to worry and assures him they've got it under control. Instead, he's more concerned about Subaru's condition. Carrion explains that Subaru is just trying to heal his tired soul. He reminds them of how exhausted they felt after passing through the door for the first time. Shikishima adds that he couldn't sleep for about 5 days, while Hirasaka, although able to move afterward, spent the next 3 days in bed. Carrion explains that the more powerful the being you make a contract with, the longer it takes for your soul to adapt. If an ordinary person were to contract with Lord Vanquish, their soul would either die or remain in a coma for several decades. However, Subaru managed to keep going without rest for an entire month, proving the fundamental strength of his soul. Carrion is confident Subaru will eventually wake up and assures them there's no need to worry too much. Despite this, Saya looks out the window with a worried expression, thinking about Subaru. Meanwhile, Subaru is floating in space, wondering if he's dreaming. Suddenly, someone behind him speaks, revealing that this is the galaxy of universal unconsciousness, a place where all souls are born and eventually return. The person tells Subaru he's currently in the midst of soul sleep, which allows them to meet for the first and last time. Subaru tries to identify the stranger but can't seem to figure it out. The stranger points upward and warns Subaru to prepare for battle. Confused, Subaru asks what kind of battle. The stranger explains that a king from another world has invaded, tearing a hole into the human world. Moreover, the possessor of Vanquish, Subaru himself, is now widely known. He warns that nations of copper, silver, and gold, among others, will soon invade their world. A storm is coming, a devastating one that will make the conflict with the Black Faction seem like a mere breeze. The stranger says no one will be able to stop it, not even a gold rank or Vanquish. The only one capable of saving everyone is Subaru. Shocked, Subaru asks how he could possibly stop a storm even Vanquish cannot. Instead of answering directly, the stranger mentions the Red Table, the Twilight Half, and the Apostle of Aurora. He adds that Subaru will ultimately become a king. Subaru finds this hard to believe. The stranger reveals that he has failed, and now exists only to return to the Sea of Unconsciousness. He says he's glad they could meet one last time. Subaru asks what he means by last and failed. The stranger reveals that he is Subaru's future self, the King of Aurora, the most powerful man in the world, who couldn't save it and was ultimately defeated. Though he can't share everything about the future, he offers Subaru some revelations and urges him not to lose his friends or the world. Subaru receives a new item called the Afterglow of the Midnight Sun, a bracelet that allows him to glimpse the memories of the deceased. The stranger tells Subaru it's time to wake up and warns that the first calamity is approaching. Wishing him good luck, the stranger says goodbye. Subaru wakes up in a hospital. Saya by his side asks him what happened. Before them stand 3 doors, copper, silver, and gold. Subaru, however, is still preoccupied with what his future self told him in the void. From the golden door emerges Safina, the king of gold, who introduces herself. The king of silver, Ruin, and the king of red copper, Vordan, follow suit. They explain that they've come to greet the king of the new generation. Subaru realizes this marks the arrival of one of the 8 calamities. Subaru realizes he wasn't dreaming when he spoke to his future self in his sleep. Upon waking, he finds himself wearing the bracelet his future self gave him, and holding detailed memories of what's to come. He knows the identities of the door owners and their purpose for appearing. If the memories starting from this point are accurate, he will lose all of his friends within the next 3 months. Visions of his friends' deaths flash before him, showing them entrusting their futures to him. One by one he sees their fates, each separating from him in different ways. Subaru reflects on how all of his friends die, leaving the burden of the world's survival to him. In one vision, he fights a man who calls him the King of Aurora and mocks his efforts to win without Vanquish's power. The man strikes Subaru with a blood mold attack, finishing him off. As future Subaru collapses, he thinks despairingly that he has lost, the world has ended, and he failed to save anyone. Crying, future Subaru apologizes to his friends for entrusting him with their hopes and for his inability to protect them. He regrets a mistake he made in the past and wishes he could return to that day. Using the last of his power from the infinite galaxy of universal unconsciousness, he sends a warning to his past self. Back in the present, Subaru sits on his bed, thanking his future self for the warning. Although that world has ended, Subaru resolves not to let his own meet the same fate. He is determined to protect everyone from the 8 calamities that threaten them. The door owners reveal themselves as the kings of the underworld, the largest and most powerful faction in existence. They are Safina, the Queen of Twilight; Ruin, the divine beast of order, who rules over all beasts as the Silver Nine-Tails; and the Bronze King, the leader of nature spirits and demi-humans who dwell on Earth. Subaru is shocked that such powerful entities have come to greet him personally. The kings acknowledge Subaru as the rightful candidate to become the next king and invite him to the Golden Country. Safina extends her hand and asks if he will accept her offer. Subaru's friends are stunned at the prospect of him going to the underworld. After Safina speaks, Ruin, the Silver King, suggests Subaru cancel his contract with Vanquish and form a new one with any of them. Ruin explains that Subaru's soul vessel is unique, and a partnership with one of them would make him the strongest in the world. Each of the 3 kings is more powerful than Vanquish, and their goal is the same as Subaru's, to protect the world from the gates of calamity. Ruin claims that Subaru would save more lives by choosing a worthier partner. Carrion can't take the suggestion and threatens to kill Ruin. Without even looking at him, Ruin silences Carrion by exerting pressure directly on his soul. As a human, Carrion cannot resist it. Ruin then turns to Subaru, clarifying that they didn't come to force a decision, but to offer exceptional conditions to someone as exceptional as Subaru. Safina offers Subaru the spear that pierces all things, and command over the Golden Knights if he becomes her possessor. Ruin offers the Bow of Endless Light and 100 high-ranking dragons. The Bronze King offers the Axe of Absolute Destruction, along with the 20 forests inhabited by great spirits. They ask Subaru to choose a door, warning that the deals are extraordinary. Carrion warns Subaru not to make a decision, insisting that the kings fear Subaru's partnership with Vanquish will allow him to grow too strong. Subaru is impressed by Carrion's loyalty, but also senses Ruin's murderous intent. He silences Carrion, yelling at him to stop interfering. Subaru knows that once he makes a choice, there's no turning back, and he has already decided to stick with Vanquish. The memory of his future self's warning weighs on Subaru's mind. He knows these offers alone won't be enough to save everyone. Ruin asks if Carrion truly believes they are trying to deceive Subaru. With the tension eased momentarily, Subaru takes a moment to think. However, Carrion shouts at him again, prompting Ruin to consider silencing him permanently. Before they act, Subaru declares his decision. He says he is open to switching allegiances if the deal is fair and the conditions align with his goals. Carrion and Saya are shocked by his statement. Subaru challenges the kings to make him believe in them more if they're so confident. The kings ask if he wants them to prove their strength, but Subaru clarifies that he is more interested in their terms. He notes that if his soul is truly unique, other kings will surely covet it as well. Subaru demands they arrange a meeting with all the underworld kings so he can evaluate the best offer. Ruin questions how Subaru knows about such meetings, suspecting Carrion of revealing the information. Meanwhile, Carrion wonders if Vanquish told Subaru about it. Subaru, however, keeps his knowledge of the future a secret, intending to use it as a weapon to change their fate. When Subaru is visited by the three kings, Vanquish watches him from the underworld. They have taken action earlier than expected, but he is more concerned about Subaru's behavior. As he thinks about his meeting with the kings, he wonders how Subaru has obtained this information. Details about the underworld are highly confidential, so there is no way Subaru should know about the meeting. While observing him, Vanquish notices the afterglow of the midnight sun, leading him to suspect it is likely Aurora. Sayaka and Hirosaki run toward him, asking if Subaru has woken up. He tells them they should be training, but they casually reply that they are taking a break. Vanquish then explains that the kings of gold, silver, and copper are coming to Subaru, asking him to end his contract with Vanquish and switch allegiances to them. Surprisingly, instead of being worried, Sayaka and Hirosaki feel proud of Subaru. Vanquish clarifies that if Subaru chooses any of the other kings, his connection with Vanquish will be severed. This would also mean the death of his kindred spirits. Hearing this, the two cheer for Subaru, hoping he won't be tempted by their offers. Vanquish warns them that even if Subaru refuses, he will still face retaliation from the three kings. He has heard that the Gold Queen has taken a dangerous item from the treasure world called Victim. When used, it can obliterate everything within a 70-kilometer radius, potentially killing 10 million people. This makes Sayaka furious, and she questions how the owners of the doors, supposedly their allies, can justify such actions. Hirosaki remarks that Subaru shouldn't prioritize their survival over the lives of others. Vanquish is surprised by their selflessness, as they value the lives of strangers above their own. Sayaka then asks if Subaru will be alright. Vanquish admits he isn't sure but notes that Subaru seems to have gained some unexpected help. Subaru is now facing his first calamity, the three doors. If he refuses the king's proposal, he will face severe retaliation. On the other hand, accepting it will ensure a future with no hope. Once he overcomes this calamity, he can prepare for the second disaster. The system shows him the consequences of both choices, opposing the kings or going against Vanquish, putting the future of all people at risk. After hearing about the meeting, the Bronze King becomes serious. He questions how a mere human like Subaru dares to stand as an equal to them. Subaru responds that anyone who wants a claim on him can negotiate at the meeting. His strategy is to delay making a decision. He has no intention of responding immediately. Instead, he plans to buy time until the meeting. Subaru realizes he cannot defeat or neutralize the three kings, and the second calamity will follow immediately after he makes his choice. His only viable option is to avoid the first calamity as much as possible and face the second with fewer disadvantages. However, even delaying his decision might provoke the wrath of the three kings. The Silver King, losing his patience, orders Safina to use Victim. It is almost like a bomb that can cause a massive explosion proportional to the amount of soul poured into it by its owner. If the Queen of Gold, Safina, uses this item, Subaru realizes the future he saw in his memories will repeat. Safina, however, surprises him by addressing him directly, saying she would like to commend his courage. She explains that this item is akin to a nuclear bomb from his world and warns that if he refuses their proposal, they intend to use it immediately. Yet, she acknowledges his bravery in negotiating and suggests they might consider his option of holding the meeting. The other two kings exchange shocked looks as Safina smiles and asks Subaru if he truly believes he can overcome the second calamity without their power. Before he can respond, Subaru notices the update screen on the sky clock hit 100%. A massive red lightning strike pierces the ground, signaling the update's completion. The system imposes a penalty as a 6-star gate, Platinum Carnificus, manifests in the world. Safina smirks and asks Subaru what he plans to do since this event is unfolding far earlier than expected. Players across the world are stunned by the appearance of the gate. Although Subaru has seen it in his memories, he never imagined it would coincide with the meeting of the three kings. He knows this gate is 100 times more difficult than the 5-star gate he cleared with Hirosaki. The players have only 7 days to enter the gate, with a maximum of 3 attempts and a participant limit of 10. Safina declares it impossible for Subaru to clear the gate within the 1-week deadline, especially since the king's meeting is scheduled for 2 weeks later. She offers their power to help him clear the gate immediately if he accepts their proposal. Once again, she asks if he truly intends to face the meeting without signing any contract. Realizing Safina's strategy, the other two kings begin mocking Subaru, expecting him to cave under pressure. Instead, Subaru surprises them all by confidently smiling and stating that he will not need their powers this time. His bold claim shocks the three kings. Subaru asserts that his team will clear the gate without a single sacrifice and invites the kings to observe them. Safina bursts into laughter, intrigued by his confidence. She tells Subaru that she is curious to see how he plans to clear the gate and agrees to his terms, granting him permission to attend the meeting without signing a contract. Before leaving, she warns him that if he fails to uphold his promise, she will use the victim item without hesitation. The kings bid Subaru farewell and vanish inside their respective doors. Relieved, Subaru lets out a deep sigh, finally free of the immense pressure. Saya, however, remains skeptical, doubting they can clear a 6-star gate without sacrifices given their struggles with the 5-star gate. Subaru simply laughs and reassures her that everything will be fine. With a confident grin, he reveals he knows a player capable of clearing the gate. After 6 p.m., the largest gate in history appears at the Itabashi intersection in Tokyo. A large crowd gathers behind the fencing tape, watching the commotion near the gate. The director of the Japanese Players Federation, Hizaki, announces that this is the first gate in Japan with a difficulty level of 6. He declares his intention to gather the top-ranked players to clear the gate within 1 week. Subaru stands between Saya and Carrion, asking them to read his mind. Carrion confirms Subaru's request, noting that relatives and their master can communicate through a soul connection with permission. Saya apologizes before closing her eyes alongside Carrion. Instantly, both feel sick as they see fragments of Subaru's life. Opening his eyes, Carrion shouts at Subaru, overwhelmed by the thought of his master facing death, even in the future. In his frustration, Carrion realizes how Subaru found out about the meeting with the 3 kings. When Subaru asks him if he knows where his future self encountered him, Carrion immediately tells him that it happened in the Sea of Universal Unconsciousness, a realm where egos dissolve and souls return. Carrion explains it as the final destination for souls across all worlds. This means that Subaru dove in there when his soul was close to disintegration, and then came back to normal. When Subaru inquires about the Aurora King, Carrion tells him that he is the king of a really small country, but he is unable to share any more details due to the protections of the system. Subaru speculates that the Aurora King might be an ally since he was able to acquire his power in the future. He then shares 2 reasons for wanting to attend the king's meeting: to avoid the use of victim by the 3 kings, and to meet the Aurora King and try to make him an ally. Subaru smiles briefly but quickly grows somber, apologizing for exposing such an unpleasant future. Saya and Carrion remain silent as Subaru reflects on his failure to save Tiga. He recalls how Tiga took the door from him, accepting that the outcome felt inevitable. Dropping to his knees, Subaru remembers the face of Lord Vanquish and questions whether his past choices were correct. He recalls Vanquish's words, asking him to dedicate his life to finding the answer. Determined not to repeat his mistakes, Subaru turns to his friends and asks for their support. Saya immediately kneels before him, promising to stay by his side as long as her soul existed. She wants to help him save the world from this calamity so that everyone can be happy. Carrion claims that he also wanted to say the same thing. Subaru smiles and thanks them both. He makes a determined expression and announces that the time has come for them to clear the 6-star gate without suffering any casualties. Saya and Carrion agree with his plan. As Subaru takes out his phone to explain everything to Shikishima, he notices a flood of missed calls. Carrion snatches the phone from his and advises against making contact. He makes the claim that the gold-ranked players aren't supporting them in this battle. Meanwhile, Shikishima wonders if Subaru is still asleep since he is not picking up his calls. The team flies over a dense, dark forest. Subaru stares into the distance, deep in thought. He recalls Carrion explaining how door owners can sense every move and word of their subordinates. This means that they must avoid discussing their plans openly, as the Golden Knights might leak their plans to Safina since she is their queen. Subaru imagines the catastrophic consequences if she discovers their intentions, picturing an explosion that would devastate the city. It is the same for players with copper and silver door owners. This is a bit sad that their plans and future memories are a secret between the 3 of them. Saya tells him that Sayaka and the clumsy guy also know about their secrets, since they can hear them at all times from the underworld. Hearing this, Subaru thinks for a second and starts shouting to Vanquish. He tells him that he needs to have a talk when he visits the underworld again. However, his loud cries irritate Carrion, who scolds him for shouting since the people in the underworld can still hear him even if he doesn't scream. He tells him that he just burst Hirasaka's eardrums. Saya asks him if they are really on their way to clear the 6-star gate, since she can only see mountains ahead. Subaru doesn't answer and simply laughs, and he notices that they have reached the Sea of Hitachi City. Meanwhile, in the underworld, Saya fights valiantly, defeating guards with powerful blows. Due to her training, she has no problem taking on multiple knights at the same time. The 2 bosses watch as she trains. They notice that she has grown much stronger. The Thunder Boss jokingly says that they are much better teachers than Carrion. He tells her that she needs to take a break, and after that, they will have a duel till the death. Sayaka is confident that she can beat him this time. She then asks him about Hirasaka. The boss tells him that he is with the prisoner. Elsewhere, Vanquish stands with Hirasaka, who faces the captured criminal Ludwig. The Knight Commander asks them to kill her. Hirasaka tells her that he won't do it since he wants her to be his swordmaster. He kneels down and reveals that he wants to be useful to his friends in the upcoming battle. He asks her again if she would train him. I didn't know the Knight Commander was a cute anime girl. Notifications flash from the system, displaying details about 6-star gates. The players must clear the gate within a week. Success will bring a new ally, reveal more truths about the world, and expand the red table. Failure will result in the death of all participants and unleash the creatures into the human world. Clearing the gate with casualties will still provoke the wrath of the three kings. As dawn breaks over Hitachi City, a guy wearing a mask on his face calmly stands on the water surface. His name is Ginga, and he is a level 67 silver rank player. It appears that he is doing a skill usage confirmation, and this is part of his daily routine. Out of nowhere, Subaru shows up and greets the man. This gives the poor man a jump scare since he isn't used to seeing other people around. Subaru introduces himself as a player and asks Ginga what he is doing. The guy tells him that this is his daily routine, and he was just checking if he still had his power. Even though it has been some years, it still feels like a dream. Hearing this makes Subaru think of the visions of the future he saw earlier. He says that it would be great if the world was actually a dream. Finally, Subaru explains his purpose for meeting him and says that he wants his help with the 6-star gates. Ginga asks him if he wants him as a backup or as a reconnaissance, but Subaru shocks him by telling him that he wants him to be the main attacker and defeat one of the 3 bosses in the 6-star gate. This makes my man freak out. He questions what Subaru is trying to accomplish and says that it is impossible. Meanwhile, Saya and Carrion hover in the sky discussing the so-called main attacker. Carrion doubts this person can handle clearing the gate since he doesn't look that strong. Ginga goes on a rant and says that he will never be able to do this job. Subaru asks him to calm down and simply says that he can do it. He explains that it might seem impossible at the moment, but once he reaches level 70 and his door appears before him, he will get a new skill that is effective against the bosses in the 6-star gate. Ginga doesn't believe a word and accuses Subaru of hiding something. He is even skeptical of him being a player. Subaru tells him that he is standing on water with his skill, so it should be enough proof. Even so, Ginga remains doubtful, questioning how Subaru knows about skills and gates that haven't even appeared yet. Subaru simply smiles and invites him to join the mission to clear the 5-star gate, which will show up nearby. Once he reaches level 70, he will know if he is lying or not. Still suspicious, Ginga accuses Subaru of knowing too much, especially about the gate's location and timing. As they argue, he receives an alert about a gate appearing in Hitachi City, proving Subaru right. The MC grins, asking if he believes him now. Ginga wonders if Subaru has some kind of prediction ability, as he seems to know every detail from far away. Frustrated, he demands to see Subaru's player registration and ID to verify if he's part of the Federation. Subaru looks tired, but the guy tells him that once he shows him his ID, he will accompany him to the 5-star gate. This makes him immediately light up and start celebrating in a weird way. Even though he is skeptical about Subaru, he can sense that he is desperate. Before they head out, he tells him that he will be keeping an eye on him during their quest, since he is still skeptical. Subaru simply smiles and tells him that once he starts believing in him, he will be willing to go to hell with him. Ginga starts to feel uneasy hearing this. He points at Subaru, asking why he is behaving so familiarly when this is their first meeting. Subaru realizes his mistake since he over-familiarized himself with him without thinking. This is because, in the future, Ginga was the last comrade who stood with him. He is 19 years old at the moment and a player who is mainly active in the Ibaraki prefecture. However, in the future, he will be known as the man who came too late. Meanwhile, Saya and Carrion hover above Subaru, watching with interest. The sky is clear and beautiful as they approach Hitachi City, with red flowers decorating the area. Saya is overjoyed by the beauty of the place. Ginga excitedly shares how this flower park is one of the most beautiful in the prefecture, especially when the roses bloom in autumn and the park lights up at night. As Ginga and Saya talk, the team reaches the gate. Subaru smiles, saying he made the reservation so they can enter right away. He asks if everything's okay, and Ginga agrees. He doesn't want those underworld creatures to ruin the beauty of this garden. The sky turns bright red as they enter the Tower of Thorns. The system announces the name of the gate. Ginga points out the roses growing inside, noting how one of them looks so ugly. The flower monster grows from the ground and attacks Ginga, but he remains calm, freezing everything around him with his ice spear. As the monster gets covered in ice, Ginga uses his second skill, Hoarfrost, to create a huge ice wall that separates him from the monster. With a confident grin, he prepares for the next move. He throws his bag off, revealing his face. Bro had to nerf his face with the mask. His eyes glow blue as he uses his third skill, turning his legs into ice skates and racing toward the monster. In seconds, all the nearby monsters turn into ice. After the monster is defeated, the system announces that his level has increased to 68. He looks at Subaru and asks him if his goal is to reach level 70. Subaru confirms it. His next door will also appear once he reaches level 50, so he decides to go all out. Bro has the divine chisel in his right hand and the black katana Ignis in his left hand. Both Saya and Carrion seem to be impressed by the silver rank's skills. They watch as Ginga stands proudly on the ice. Subaru notes that Ginga uses his skills efficiently, unlike the instant kill tactics of gold rank players. He realizes that this is the fighting skill of a silver rank veteran with 5 years of experience. It is now his turn to show off, so he calls out to Saya and Carrion and prepares to go in. As the flower monsters attack, Subaru leaps into action, jumping toward the plant and slicing it with both swords. The plant shrieks as it's cut in half. The system announces that the flower beast, level 53, has been defeated. Saya watches Subaru holding the black katana and realizes that it reflects the soul of Tiga. The black katana is a sword that embodies the power of Kukugaiji through the soul of Tiga. It is able to deteriorate time for whatever it slices, and allows the player to teleport in a short range. Saya decides that it's her time to be useful, so she steps forward and uses her Blood Brute skill. This skill summons a vampire-like creature under her control and makes them fight. She commands the vampire to consume everything that opposes Subaru. Carrion watches her with a smile as he notices how strong she has gotten. It is now his time to show off, so he prepares to face the plant monsters and obliterates them using his blood fist. Ginga wonders why Subaru even needs his help when his comrades seem so talented. Just as he is thinking, a knight appears in front of him and tries to slash him in half. He uses his ice shield at the last second and manages to evade it. He knows that this is the boss of this gate, and he is probably stronger than him. He hits the boss with his frost javelin, but the attack is easily blocked. The knight wastes no time and counterattacks him with his shield, throwing him to the ground. He looks up to see the knight approaching him to finish him off. He manages to make it out using his ice skill, but the knight is not done chasing him yet. Ginga knows that he is facing a tough opponent. The knight points his sword at him and challenges him to a one-on-one duel. Just as he accepts the duel, one of the knight's subordinates appears behind him for a surprise attack, but Ginga had already predicted it. Since he is so skeptical, he doesn't think that the knight would fight fair. He kills the subordinate and asks the knight to come at him without any tricks. As soon as the knight charges at him, he notices Subaru approaching him from the side. However, he is still able to respond quickly and blocks his attack. Despite having his shield up, Subaru uses the black katana to deteriorate it and goes in for the kill. The knight puts up a good fight, which makes him smile, and he asks him to fight him fair and square. As soon as he says this, Ginga freezes the knight using his skill. Subaru reveals that it is prohibited to fight fair and square in his school. The two of them then work together and destroy the knight using their skills while he is frozen. This pushes Subaru to level 51 and Ginga reaches level 70. Both of them can now access the doors. As the door of trial appears, Ginga looks back at Subaru and asks him how much he knows. The MC even knows about his death, but he chooses to stay quiet since he doesn't want the Silver King to find out anything. He simply says that he can't explain it to him at the moment. At the same time, Saya and Carrion show up after clearing the rest of the gate. Saya looks at the door in front of Ginga and realizes that the fate of the world depends on the skill he is about to acquire from that gate. Before entering the gate, Subaru calls him out and lets him know that he is counting on him. The guy tells him that he will only accompany him to the gate if he gets the skill that will allow him to take it on. Subaru confidently tells him that it's alright since he will definitely get that skill. As he is about to enter his rainbow door, Saya notices that he looks a bit nervous. He enters the door to see a blue sky. He hears the voice of Sayaka, who smiles and tells him that she has been waiting for him. All this time he wanted to meet her and apologize for what happened, but now that she is actually in front of him, the words won't come. She asks him why he is so quiet, and he immediately changes the conversation to Vanquish. Sayaka tells him that he went somewhere else after telling her that it was better to spend some private time with her friend. He also told her that she would be the one to give him the trial this time. Sayaka immediately goes into battle mode and asks him to come at her with the intent of killing her because she will do the same. Subaru accepts her challenge, but he is surprised to see just how fast she moves. He manages to dodge her attack using the katana. She turns back and hits him with the thunderbolt, but Subaru blocks it using his curse blood spell. Sayaka feels annoyed that he is blocking all of her attacks, but he gives her no time to think. As the two of them continue fighting, he takes out the divine chisel. Before he can attack, he notices her using the golden arm, and he finally realizes that she has become stronger. Vanquish and the Thunder Killim watch this battle from afar. The Thunder Boss mentions how Subaru talked about growing stronger with the girl when he pierced his heart. Now that he is training her, he realizes that she is great and has a lot of motivation. Meanwhile, the trail has finally concluded and Subaru manages to beat Sayaka. As they both lie on the ground, he tries asking her a question, but before he even starts, she tells him that she will help him prevent the calamity. She says that she has already made a promise to him, so she will never betray him. Subaru remembers the time when they first met and she joined him on his quests as his comrade. He starts crying and thanks her for sticking with him. Back at Ginga's door, he faces the arcane of Ice Wings, who is the owner of his door. Bro looks like a Pokemon. Ginga has finally cleared the trial and gained his new skill. He wonders if it will be enough to beat the 6-star gate. His skill is called the Ice 9. After the trial is over, Vanquish shows up and asks Subaru if he is done. Sayaka asks him about Kilim and he tells her that he has already left. He can feel his power synchronizing with Subaru and says that the day is not far when he will regain even more power. However, he still saw him dying in the future. Vanquish asks him to tell him everything so they can come up with a plan. After Subaru gets out of the door, he sees the entire gate covered in ice. He turns back to see Carrion and Saya still without any injuries. They point towards Ginga, who is standing behind Subaru with a serious expression. He asks him why he took so long even though time flows at a slower pace inside the door. He has already defeated the boss of the 5-star gate by himself. He tells Subaru that he was right, and his new skill may be effective against the 6-star boss if certain conditions are met. After clearing the gate in 19 minutes, his level goes up to 74. Meanwhile, Shikishima has already assembled a team of players outside the 6-star gate. Among them are 4 silver rank players, including a healer, and 4 gold rank players. Shikishima mentions 2 of the gold ranks and thanks them for coming all this way to help. One of them, named Akira, says that he doesn't really like the air in this city. His friend Mei tells him to stop talking. The guy says that he has no intention of protecting places when Hirasaka is no longer there. He asks Shikishima to hurry up and clear the gate since he wants to get out. Shikishima explains that they can't lock the door, which means that they can enter and exit as they like, but the enemies will be roaming inside the gate before they even enter, so they can't send a team beforehand. They have to go in with 0 information. The door is also 10 times more difficult than a 5-star gate with a 7-day time limit. Akira goes on a yapping session, which is fortunately stopped by Kinokawa, who has just arrived at the scene. Her limbs are now back to normal thanks to a healer that Mei brought from America. The healer is on standby outside the gate in case any player in the attacking team gets injured. The healer is named Mia Hart, and she is a gold rank player from the USA. She only wanted to come to Japan to buy some figurines, but she just got unlucky with the timing. The Americans also sent their team of gold players inside the 6-star gate, but it resulted in half of them dying. Just as the team is preparing to head inside, Subaru arrives with his team. Shikishima screams at him for not picking up his calls. He asks him if he can participate in the raid with them, but Subaru doesn't answer. He simply asks Shikishima if he can take care of the gate alone with his comrades. He explains that it will be impossible for them to deal with even with their strengths combined. This enrages some of the players who think that he is looking down on them. One such player is Akira, who walks over to him and asks him if he really thinks he is stronger than all of them. Subaru tries to explain, but suddenly Carrion jumps in and starts to trash talk the gold rank. This escalates the situation even more, and the guy goes feral. He prepares to use his skill on Subaru, but before he can act, he gets punched in the face and goes to sleep. Subaru has seen the future, and he knows that this guy is one of the first members who die in the raid. He doesn't want him to continue on, so he puts him to sleep. He turns around and tells everyone that he can't lose them, so they are better off going without them. Ginga looks at him in shock and wonders what he is trying to do. Now even Shikishima is mad and all the players are turning against him. Seeing them all with their weapons out, Saya gets mad, but Subaru stops her. He tells them that Akira was about to use his skill in the middle of the city, so he stopped him. He wouldn't have listened to him even if he tried, so his only option was to knock him out. Shikishima is a bit suspicious and asks him if he has prepared this answer in advance, since he seems to know so much about Akira. He then points at Ginga and says that since he has brought him here, it means that he has a plan in mind. He figures out that Subaru probably knows something about the gate. Hearing this, the protagonist agrees with him. Shikishima trusts him, so he knows that if he is not telling them about the gate, it probably means that he got involved with the underworld. He asks him once again if there is no way for them to help him. Subaru explains to him that they get 3 attempts to clear the gate, and this is the only attempt where his team would go in alone. After that, they can form a party. Hearing this, Shikishima orders everyone to put their weapons down. He believes in the MC, so he entrusts everything to him. All the players trust Shikishima, so none of them has any objections except Akira, who gets back up for some reason. He screams at everyone and asks them if they have gone crazy to believe everything the guy says. Shikishima tells him that the reason he trusts him is because he is always ready to risk his life for his friends. He asks him to stay down since he has already tried to use his skill in the middle of the city. Since everything is cleared, Subaru turns towards his team and they all prepare to go inside the door. As soon as the door opens, hot winds start blowing from inside. The MC looks back at Akira, who is still mad at him. He apologizes for hitting him and asks him to have a chat after he is back. The American girl loses her mind when she finds out that they are only sending 4 players inside. She screams at them and says that the gate is pure hell. The entire stage is divided into 3 areas. After entering the gate, the players will face the flame garden. After that, they have to face the open space, and thirdly, they will reach inside the chamber. Each area has its own boss. The first area is almost like a furnace and is constantly burning. The temperature around here is above 290 degrees Celsius. The boss who is responsible for all this fire is named the Fiery Lambda. The boss in the second area is the Hero Devourer who can emit light waves. Since the bosses are so strong, no other underworld creatures can survive in this environment. In Subaru's future memories, the attacking team that was sent inside the gate had to face the insane temperatures. This made it hard for them to breathe and even stand in the area. Udo gave the responsibility to Shikishima and asked him to make the decision. Shikishima calls out to Subaru and he makes a blood sphere around the group. This allows them to breathe a little better and protects them from the heat. However, keeping the bubble up drains a lot of mana, so he only does it for an hour if he is not engaging directly with the boss. Shikishima orders the healer to focus on healing the players for now. Suddenly the heat gets even more intense and something starts approaching the players. Akira notices his entire body trembling. As the players look up, they witness the first boss. He is the Fiery Lambda and the brother of the Thunder Keelam and Storm Delta. Shikishima realizes that he is the source of the heat since the temperature went up when he approached them. The players feel like they are about to pass out with just the boss floating in front of them. Without Subaru's skill, it is impossible for them to even survive. Shikishima realizes that they can't attack or defend themselves from this boss, so he chooses the best option he can think of. He uses his Sulfur Rain skill on the boss and tells everyone to retreat. He knows that they can't do anything if Subaru is trapped inside the circle. Our boy decides to be the last one to leave since he has to keep the bubble up. As the first player starts to retreat, he is obliterated by the boss in a single blow. The boss mocks them for being weak and stands directly in front of Mei after cooking one of her teammates. Despite Shikishima's warnings, she tries to fight the boss, but it is not enough. He destroys her in a single blow as well. Udo and Kinokawa try to attack him, but none of it seems to have any effect on him. Shikishima screams at them to stop, but they don't listen. Udo tells him that someone has to stay behind since the boss is chasing them. Suddenly, Akira uses his golden arms and pulls everyone out of the gate one by one. He says that they can't afford to lose those seniors in the battles ahead. Before Subaru can even say anything, he forces him outside the gate too. He tells him that this is what Hirasaka would have done in this situation. This is why only he has to remain inside the gate. He combines his skill with his armory and brings out 8 golden arms. The Fiery Lambda is impressed by his bravery and honors him with an introduction. He tells him that he will go all out to respect him. In his final moments, Akira calls out to Subaru and tells him to beat the boss for him. 3 players were killed trying to take down the Fiery Lambda. They finally managed to defeat it in their second assault after losing 2 more players. Back to the present time, Subaru was inside the gate once again. This time he was wearing a special suit made out of his skill. As the Fiery Lambda excitedly flies towards him, he is ready to finish him off in one go without losing any of his comrades. In addition to being strong in his offense, the Fiery Lambda also has insane defensive abilities, which provide him resistance from all types of skills and attacks. He had grown bored after staying inside the door for so long, so his daily routine is to play with the Dragon of Light. As the two of them are fighting, the Dragon of Light senses some intruders inside the gate. They pause their fight and the Fiery Lambda goes to take the intruders out. The Light Dragon hopes that they manage to kill the fiery boss since he also wants to have some fun. While leaving, the Fiery Lambda tells him to fight the first boss if he is really that bored. This scares the Dragon of Light since he knows he will have no chance of going against that boss. The boss in the first area is the former commander of the Golden Knights, and his name is Iluk. Ginga notices that he doesn't really feel any heat even though they are in extreme temperatures. This is thanks to the heat-resistant armor made by Subaru. He used his previous memories of the raid to come up with this armor, which allows the players to constantly maintain their internal body temperature. However, since it consumes a lot of mana, they need to defeat the boss in less than 10 minutes, or the suits will explode, and they will die. Carrion mentions that they don't even need 10 minutes, since if they can't defeat the boss in more than 3 minutes, they will probably lose. Subaru knows that their opponent is a lot stronger than them, and they only have one chance to defeat him, so this battle should be won instantly. The temperatures inside their suits begin to rise as the boss approaches. 1 minute has already passed and Subaru realizes that it's time for him to make his appearance. He instructs Ginga to use his mana until he tells him to do it. Ginga can already feel the pressure from the boss as he floats in front of them. Carrion also knows that he can't defeat this boss with the body he has at the moment. This is why they came up with a plan. The Fiery Lambda looks at them with surprise as they prepare to execute their plan. He gets a bit excited and asks them to showcase their power. Instead of attacking him, they start crying and beg him not to attack them. This confuses him and he watches them in silence. My man getting gaslighted. They tell him that they are originally from the underworld, and they have brought some useful information to him regarding his siblings. As soon as they mention his brothers, the fire boss becomes interested. He asks them where they are. Subaru met with Carrion and Saya the previous day, and talked about his memories of the future. When Carrion realizes that he didn't take any of his kindred inside the door, he gets mad. He knew that he was trying to protect the bodies of Hirasaka and Sayaka. Subaru apologizes to him and assures him that it won't happen again. Carrion reveals that he has fought against the fiery lambda before in the underworld, and he will be the one to kill him. Back inside the gate, the boss gets closer to him and asks him if his brothers are actually alive. He knew that the boss would take the bait if he mentioned the brothers. He apologizes to him and tells him that his fire is too strong for them. Hearing this, the boss lowers the temperature, which makes it easier for them to breathe. He asks them for his brothers again. Now that the fire is gone, Ginga can get close to the boss. They tell the boss that he is carrying a message he received from his brothers, and he will convey that message by touching him, since it is one of his skills. The boss gets a bit suspicious when he asks him for permission to touch him. Their plan is to use the Ice 9 skill on the boss, since it can only be activated from a close distance. Moreover, it consumes all of the player's mana, so they only get one chance. Once the technique is in effect, it ensures the death of anyone who gets touched.